My husband invited his childhood sweetheart to celebrate her birthday at our seaside villa, but they encountered an extreme blizzard. As the blizzard approached, he forced me to deliver supplies to them through the storm. At the critical moment, he threw me out the door. Supplies are limited. Solace is delicate and can't endure hardship, but you're strong. A little cold and hunger won't kill you. I was frozen to death outside the door. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at the time when I first arrived at the villa. This time, I'll leave on my own without them having to drive me out. After all, once the snowstorm hits, this illegal villa will turn into ruins anyway. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself sitting in the familiar car, with warm air blowing beside me. I suddenly stood up, double-checked the car's equipment was functioning properly, then pressed my fingers against my throbbing pulse. Only then did I finally confirm I had been reborn. Staring at the supplies in the trunk, my memories returned to my previous life. In my past life, my husband Lucius built an illegal seaside villa for his childhood sweetheart in a deserted coastal area. The reason is that his childhood friend Solace loves watching the ocean the most. Solace's birthday coincidentally fell on the day the villa's decoration was completed, so the two of them simply chose to celebrate at the villa. Then the Meteorological Bureau suddenly issued an extreme snowstorm warning, urging citizens to stock up on supplies in advance. 1. Lucius called me directly, threatening me to deliver supplies for the two of them. Just deliver this batch of supplies, and I'll agree to sign the divorce papers, setting you free completely. After 5 years, I can finally let go of everything and go to the one I truly love. I exhausted every means to secure supplies for them at the mall, then braved the snowstorm to drive all the way to the seaside. I thought delivering the supplies would bring me liberation, but Solace forcibly kept me to celebrate their birthday together. She said, "A day as husband and wife brings 100 days of affection. Consider this meal as your farewell dinner. Today is my birthday. Surely my sister won't deny me this small favor." Remembering our past bond, I reluctantly stayed. After the birthday celebration, the snowstorm arrived in full force. The howling wind outside made it impossible for even cars to move forward. I originally planned to stay in the villa until the extreme weather passed, but that despicable couple treated me like a maid. My bird's nest porridge must be exactly 70% sweet. If it's even slightly less, you can get the hell out of this house. This room is freezing. Burn your own clothes to warm up the place. Her endless pretentious demands drove me crazy, although Lucius and I are in a cold war. I believe he wouldn't abandon me to die. No matter how much we dislike each other, I am still his wife after all, but I overestimated him in the end. Watching the dwindling supplies, Solace sighed in a pinched voice, "Who knows when this snowstorm will end? I'm now eating for two, and with Luna and I having such a big appetite, what if our supplies run out and we both end up starving?" Lucius looked at me, his expression gradually darkening. The next second, he stripped me down to my undergarments right in front of Solace and threw me out the door into the snowstorm. I was instantly horrified and desperately tried to block the door with my hands. "What are you doing? It's so cold outside. I'll die. There are so many supplies in the house. How could they not be enough for the three of us?" Lucius pretended to hesitate. "Supplies are limited. Solace has a weak constitution and can't endure hardship. But you're big and strong, a little cold and hunger won't kill you." I thought I must have misheard and asked in confusion, "What did you say?" He replied impatiently, "Solace and I are just ordinary people, but aren't you the winter swimming champion? This bit of cold should be nothing to you." Tears streamed uncontrollably down my face as I choked out a plea to him. "I won't touch the supplies in the house. I can endure hunger, but this heavy snow outside is deadly. I beg you, don't be so cruel to me." Lucius didn't even let me finish before cutting me off. "No, I don't want Solace to feel wronged because of you." I knelt at the door begging pitifully, while Solace sat on the couch eating cherry tomatoes as if nothing was wrong. "Will you two stop already?" After getting them out, close the door quickly. "It's freezing to death in here." Lucius turned back to look at her with adoration in his eyes. "Don't get angry. It's not good for the baby." One moment he was acting like a doting husband, the next he turned ferocious, gritting his teeth as he kicked me out the door. I collapsed in the snow, then immediately scrambled and crawled into the car that was already half buried in snow, but my phone had long been hidden by that despicable couple, leaving me no chance to call for help. I started the car and slammed the accelerator, but it remained silent. In my final moments, I held my numb legs and wept in the car, reminiscing about my pitiful life. My 5-year marriage with Lucius ended with him and his mistress murdering me with their own hands. Poor me. I had just reunited with my childhood sweetheart not long ago, handsome and young. He'd already become a CEO, the most perfect man I'd ever seen. I promised him that after divorcing Lucius, we would be together openly and honestly. Unfortunately, I would never live to see that day. In the end, the violent blizzard struck like a wild beast. sending me and the car tumbling through the storm, until I met a tragic end in the wreckage of the crushed vehicle. After death, my body gradually grew lighter, yet my consciousness remained attached to my spirit, floating midair. In the vast expanse of vision, the entire world appears so small amidst the howling of the fierce wind. Before long, the small beachside villa also collapsed under the assault of the snowstorm. Watching that despicable couple struggle and weep in the ruins finally eased the hatred in my heart. I had long warned Lucius that the villa he built was an illegal structure and highly unsafe. He thought I was jealous of Solace and deliberately poured cold water on him. Such an outcome now can be considered his instant karma. A few days later, the snowstorm ceased. At the end of my life, what I saw was Gage, who had rushed back from abroad, holding my frozen body and weeping. Suddenly, someone banged hard on my car window. My consciousness finally returned from the past life to this moment. The person knocking on the window was Lucius. "You're quick. The snowstorm hasn't even arrived yet, but you're already here. Where did you put the things I asked you to buy?" I rolled down the car window, bewildered, and said, "What thing? What did you ask me to buy?" Lucius's face instantly twisted with rage. "Didn't I tell you to come deliver supplies to me? Are you playing dumb?" I let out a no, then smiled. "You mean the supplies? I didn't manage to get any. You can't even imagine how terrifying it was inside that mall. I came here specifically to deliver this awful news to you in person, too. Of course this is fake. All the supplies I grabbed are safely stored in the trunk. In my past life, to divorce Lucius, I'd have fought tooth and nail to secure those supplies, but this despicable couple will die eventually too. Why waste these provisions on them?" Solace couldn't stand by any longer. She rushed over and grabbed my car window anxiously, saying, "What should we do then? Lucius's car broke down. Now you're the only one with a vehicle. I just got pregnant. If mother and child both die because of you, I'll haunt you even in death." Her words triggered memories from my past life. Because Lucius has azoospermia, I've been unable to conceive a child for him after marriage. Yet he stubbornly believed it was my problem and devoted all his affection to Solace. But Solace comes from a complicated background, and Lucius's parents disapproved of this marriage. Thus, my marriage with him became a cover for this illicit affair. This year, she somehow became pregnant, gaining a legitimate reason to marry into the Lucius family. Of course, I wouldn't expose Solace's lie. It was precisely because of her pregnancy that Lucius decided to spare me. But it was also her arrogance after becoming pregnant that led to my death in my previous life. My body turned cold, but I struggled to suppress the fury in my heart as I lied to them. Just kidding. Although the malls in the city are completely empty, I just happened to find a small roadside grocery store. I drove back specifically to double-check the items you need to buy. Hearing this, the two of them finally relaxed. Lucius probably didn't expect me to be this considerate. He asked doubtfully, "The blizzard is almost here. Aren't you afraid of running into it if you go out now?" I explained with a smile. "Oh, don't worry, I checked the warning. It's still early. Hurry up and write down what you need so I can go buy it quickly." Upon hearing this, Solace excitedly went inside to get paper and write a list. Lucius, on the other hand, stroked his chin and let out a cold laugh. "Lunaire, don't think that showing me kindness now will make me change my mind. Solace is carrying my child, and I intend to cherish her for the rest of my life. A lifetime, if he's going to be crushed by a house in a few days." Then he certainly did cherish Solace for his entire lifetime. Suppressing my disgust, I forced a smile and took his hand. "What should I do then? I just regret it. I suddenly realized how much I love you." "What now?" Lucius scoffed and roughly grabbed my face. "You wouldn't even bear me a child, yet you blame your own incompetence on me. Only now you think to please me. Too late. I'll make you understand. A man like me isn't for just any woman. Didn't you adore your penniless childhood friend? Go live with him in a basement rental for the rest of your life." I couldn't help but burst out laughing. What kind of man is this? What sort of man? I admit Lucius does have some charm, but he's far from matching my childhood friend Gage. As for character, it's not even worth mentioning. Utterly terrible, nowhere near Gage. When Lucius first met Gage, he was just a young man who had failed in his startup, but over the years, through continuous effort, he gradually climbed to the position of corporate president. Lucius could never have imagined what a good life I would have if I married Gage. As they were talking, Solace had already come over with the shopping list. Noticing the ambiguous smile in my eyes, she remarked sarcastically, "Who would have thought that some women claim their marital bond is over, yet still can't control their wanton nature in private?" Lucius wrapped his arm around her waist, whispering sweet nothings to coax her. "Darling, don't overthink it. How could she ever compare to you? Even if she stripped naked and ran down the street, I wouldn't spare her a second glance." Solace curled her lips into a smile and tossed the shopping list at me. "Drive faster on your way there. Don't be stingy with your gas money. If you get caught in a snowstorm and blown away by the wind, don't expect us to save you." As she spoke, she nestled into Lucius's arms. I have to admit I'm just luckier than some people, living in a beachfront villa with the one I love by my side, while others don't even know where to go when the storm comes. What will you do? Hide with your little boyfriend in that rented apartment? Be careful the whole shabby place doesn't get blown away. Haha, her mistress-like commanding tone truly infuriated me. As I turned my head to look at the small villa standing by the seaside, all my anger instantly dissipated. I smiled faintly and said, "Thank you for worrying about me, but I'll do my best to keep living." Solace rolled her eyes and spoke up. "You braved the snow to deliver supplies for us, so we should show some gratitude. Why don't you stay with us these days?" Although this villa is newly built, the facilities are quite complete. In her previous life, she also tried every means to keep me in the villa, but in the end, she forced me to go to my death. Although her true intentions are unclear in this life. "I won't be fooled so easily again," I nodded. "Great, truly a woman worthy of Lucius's admiration, both beautiful and kind-hearted." She instantly blossomed into laughter from my few insincere compliments. "Oh well, there's nothing to be done, you can't envy what you can't have." I stopped flattering her, instead rolling down the window and stepping on the gas to hit the road, watching that despicable pair in the rearview mirror. A meaningful smile crept across my lips. I hope when the snowstorm collapses their house, they can remain as proud as they were just now. I used all my driving skills, flooring the accelerator all the way as I headed toward the city. Go to a small street-side supermarket to buy supplies for them? Absolutely not. They're dying anyway. No need to waste those few mouthfuls of food. Fortunately, the roads were clear, and I drove back to the city in just over an hour. The biggest wave of snow and wind is about to arrive, and when it does, everything will be frozen solid, likely rendering all means of transportation unusable. I walked straight into a lavishly decorated, 5-star hotel whose structural integrity ranks among the best in the world. This hotel is the safest place in the entire city. I walked straight to the front desk and showed my ID card and VIP card to the receptionist. The receptionist picked up my documents and then smiled politely. "So you're Miss Luna Iyer, Gage's beloved. It's an honor to serve you. Here's the key card to your suite, and we'll have the food delivered to your room shortly." After checking in, I immediately received a phone call from Gage overseas. The voice on the phone sounded particularly urgent. "I saw the warning. The blizzard is heading your way. How are things there? Do you have enough supplies?" He sighed and said, "Of all times for this to happen while I'm abroad, I can't even take care of you. Stay put at home. I'll arrange to have whatever supplies you need sent to you right now." In my previous life, Lucius secretly hid my phone, cutting off all my contact with the outside world, so much so that I never got to hear my loved one's voice again before I died. Hearing the familiar voice on the other end, countless emotions welled up in my heart. Holding back tears, I said, "I'm fine. I used the VIP card you gave me to check into the hotel, knowing I was safe." Gage finally let out a sigh of relief. That hotel is excellent, with ample food supplies and a complete self-contained power system. I'm relieved you're there. Don't be afraid. Once this wave of snowstorm passes, I'll return to China to find you." I nodded silently and said softly, "I've already settled things with Lucius. When you come back, let's get married, okay, Gage? I love you so much. I never want to lose you again." A low chuckle came through the phone, utterly captivating. "I love you too. Ever since you saved me from the frozen lake in high school, I decided I'd marry no one but you." Gage and I have known each other since high school. Because Gage came from a poor family, he was always bullied by his peers. Once, he was pushed into the frozen lake in the park by some troublemakers, and it was me who happened to pass by and pulled him out of the water. He always said that was the moment he fell in love with me at first sight. My swimming skills, which Lucius despised the most, were what Gage admired the most. After graduation, Gage wanted to start a business but repeatedly hit walls. Even Lucius mocked him, calling him a shabby poor boy, due to my father's critical illness. My mother forcibly arranged a blind date for me, and I married Lucius, whose family was considered well-off. Later, Gage gained wealth and confidence, but by then I was already someone else's wife. Now, this relationship between Gage and me can finally see the light of day. We exchanged pleasantries on the phone for a long time, expressing nothing but love for each other. After the call ended, I took a bubble bath to wash away the exhaustion of a long day's journey. After bathing, I changed into the silk pajamas provided by the hotel and sat on the carpeted balcony, gazing at the gloomy sky outside. At this moment, the sky was dark, with fierce winds howling incessantly, violently and eerily sweeping through the streets, while large snowflakes drifted through the air like a prelude to the apocalypse. The blizzard is counting down, and the streets are already deserted. I wrapped myself in a blanket and leaned by the window to binge-watch shows. Outside, the wind and snow rage fiercely, while inside remains warm and peaceful, a stark contrast in my past life. I dwelled in a seaside villa where power and water were cut off, and all heat came from burning paper and clothing. Back then, facing the oppression from that despicable couple while watching the snowstorm outside that nearly buried the world, I felt an indescribable suffocation in my heart. I used to think that even if Lucius and I couldn't be lovers or friends, we should at least preserve some dignity for each other. Yet he personally shut me out, leaving me trapped in the hellish snowstorm. Recalling the miseries of my past life, I fell into a deep sleep wrapped in the warm blanket. Before long, the piercing ringtone jolted me awake. I rubbed my hair and reached out a hand from under the blanket to answer the call. The moment Lucius spoke, his words carried enough venom to kill with spit alone. Lunaire, how many hours have you been out? If you hadn't picked up, I'd have thought you died out there. Is that supermarket you mentioned really that far away? I turned over comfortably and said lazily, "Why are you cursing me? Of course you should drive slowly in the snow. Or are you going to take responsibility if there's an accident? I'm already doing my best to get to the supermarket." Lucius fell silent for a moment, then angrily said, "Then hurry up. I can't even imagine how slow you're driving. Anyway, the snow is getting heavier now. If you can't make it back, I won't save you. You'll have to fend for yourself," I said calmly. "Oh." I took the initiative to hang up the phone, closed my eyes, and fell back asleep. After dozing for a while longer, I completely lost my drowsiness and began leaning on the sofa to watch the surveillance footage from the villa. This surveillance system was secretly installed when I built this villa, and those two were completely unaware of this camera's existence. Back then, since Lucius stubbornly refused to divorce me, I had to create opportunities to catch him red-handed. The entire living room in the frame was pitch dark, exuding an added chill at first glance. On the sofa, Solace leaned against Lucius's chest, the two pitifully sharing a single coat for warmth. They burned books from the shelves in the living room, using them to bring some warmth to the vast space. Solace shivered from the cold, her words coming out slurred. "Damn that Lunaire, why isn't she back yet? And this villa? The worst of the snowstorm hasn't even hit, and they've already cut the power. Can't even use the electric blanket we prepared in advance." Lucius held her tightly and comforted her. "She's already on her way. Once she gets back, everything will be fine. Don't worry, she's kind and foolish enough that she'd never abandon us." Kind yet foolish, that was indeed me in my past life, but in this new life, I will absolutely abandon the kindness I showed them in my previous existence. I was watching the surveillance footage when Gage suddenly sent a message. "I ordered your favorite dessert for you. It should be delivered to your room soon." The efficiency of 5-star hotels is indeed impressive. No sooner had Gage sent the message than someone knocked on the door and wheeled in a meal cart. The cart was fully stocked with desserts, drinks, and fruits, making my lavish spread highlight Lucius's particularly pitiful situation. I had just popped a macaron into my mouth when Solace called again. Her voice was sharp, yet slightly breathless from the cold. "Lunaire, you bitch, I just checked the map on my phone. There's no supermarket anywhere near here. I never thought you could be such a selfish person. Admit it. Did you sneak off alone? Do you realize you're carrying 3 lives on your back right now? This is murder." I stirred the black tea beside me and responded to her with full dramatic flair. "How could you think that? Of course I didn't go to a nearby supermarket. Otherwise, why would it take me so long? I ran all this way for you guys. And this is the suspicion I get. I also want to finish shopping quickly and go back. But there's a car accident blocking the road ahead, so I'm taking a detour now." Solace was also utterly speechless. She said impatiently, "Stop detouring. Come back. We have enough food at home to last for a while. It's just a bit cold. If you really can't make it, then don't go." She's definitely lying to me. In the previous life, the supplies I brought were barely enough for the 3 of us to survive. In this life, I didn't bring them anything, so how could the household supplies possibly be sufficient? I asked knowingly. "If there's enough food at home to last, I won't go back. I see the snow is getting heavier, so I'll just find a place nearby to take shelter." "Okay," Solace urgently said. "No. You'd better come back. The 3 of us can keep each other company. It's too dangerous for you to hide outside alone." I took a sip of the steaming hot black tea. "Wouldn't having me there just mean one more burden? You all kept saying you wouldn't care about me before, so why are you begging me to come back now?" Her confidence clearly wavered as her tone softened. "I'm pregnant and extremely afraid of catching cold. I saw there's a clothing store nearby on the map. Could you drive back and bring some thick clothes? We have everything at home except warm items. Surely you wouldn't have the heart to watch us freeze to death." In the past, I definitely wouldn't have had the heart. After all, these are 2 living lives. But since in my past life they could disregard my life without hesitation, then surely I can harden my heart and do the same. Solace was pleading meekly on her end, while Lucius snatched the phone. his tone devoid of its previous arrogance. "I'm fine, but the thing is Solace is pregnant, she shouldn't be subjected to any distress. That clothing store is just a stone's throw from the villa, barely a drive away." Munching on grapes, I chuckled and said, "What does her pregnancy have to do with me, unless she's carrying my child? What's more, that store is so close to you, why don't you go yourself? Isn't she your beloved? Or are you unwilling to endure even this little hardship for her?" The attempt to yield bore no fruit, and Lucius revealed his impatient true nature as he angrily said, "Lunire, listen to what you're saying. Have you lost your mind? There's a blizzard outside, my car is broken, what if I freeze to death? What if I get blown away? If he's human, does that mean I'm not? He'd freeze to death or get blown away walking outside, yet I can buy clothes without even getting out of the car, without facing the wind and snow. What's more, in our past life he arrogantly claimed such weather couldn't possibly kill a strong swimmer like me, but when it comes to himself, suddenly he's so fragile." Anger surged through me. I couldn't be bothered to argue, so I just hung up and threw the phone onto the bed. I sat cross-legged on the sofa again, eating desserts from the food cart while watching TV. Hours passed, and the world outside the window had become blurred, with heavy snow battering against the stubborn glass. The blizzard had arrived. I couldn't help but wonder how miserable that despicable couple must be, trapped in their house without supplies under the tsunami-like assault of the storm. A faint smile appeared at the corner of my mouth as I reopened the surveillance video on my phone. It didn't even require visual confirmation, just the sound alone made me feel the terrifying force of the snowstorm battering the self-built building. The crystal chandelier in the living room swayed and clinked from the house's tremors, as if it might come crashing down any second. Solace crouched by the fire, curled up like a ball, his face dark as he angrily kept stuffing papers into the flames. How could I have never realized before that Lunire is such a vicious person? You were married to her for years, and she dares to play us like this. As she spoke, a few more tears fell, and she began to roar. "How did you endure being married to such a wicked person all these years? Why must fate be so cruel to us, leaving us here to suffer hunger and cold? Who knows where she's hiding now? She has no place to stay. Surely she wouldn't actually go running to that penniless fool Gage, would she?" Faced with life and death, Lucius had no extra energy left to coax her. Lucius circled around the fire with his phone, continuously calling me. However, I had already muted my phone. Ignoring all his calls no matter how many he made, he panted heavily and said, "She suddenly hung up the phone just now, and no matter how many times I called, she wouldn't answer. Could she really have died halfway? Of all times, why did she have to die right now?" Hearing this last sentence, I couldn't help but straighten my back. From their tone, it seemed they had long expected me to die, yet I didn't fulfill their wish. Instead, I died at the very moment they needed me most. Solace snorted coldly. "I don't think so. At least she still has a car. I think she's just too lazy to help, pretending to be dead to us." "Are you so anxious because you're worried about her?" Lucius finally stopped circling and sat down beside Solace, stroking her belly. "How could I possibly be worried about her? I'm thinking about the two of us. We've lost so much money in business, and now we finally have a chance to make it back. Of course I'd be concerned. You know as well as I do. I secretly arranged a ghost marriage for Lunire. The other party is a wealthy family, offering several million. Even if she dies, I have to ensure her body remains intact." Solace pondered for a moment, then nodded again. "True, it'd be better if she froze to death. Delivering her missing limbs would be quite troublesome." After speaking, she shyly nestled into Lucius's arms again. "Despite your massive debts and selling the family property behind Lunire's back, I still choose to stay by your side. I love you this much, you better not betray me," Lucius said. "Don't worry, no matter how down and out we are, we're still better off than Lunire. At least we can still keep this villa and the fruit of our love, while Lunire will soon lose even her life." Solace looked at him and chuckled. "If you ask me, Lunire dying would be a mercy. What's the point of living for someone like her? Just to squeeze into a rented place with that penniless Gage. It's a fate worse than death. We're actually doing her a favor." Hearing these words made my hair stand on end, and the doubts that had been weighing on my heart were suddenly resolved. No wonder they were so desperate to keep me in the villa in both lifetimes, even pushing me out to freeze to death in my previous life. They wanted me to die with my body intact under their surveillance. Had I not heard it with my own ears, I wouldn't have known that the Lucius family went bankrupt and they still harbored such malicious intentions toward me. They keep blaming me for abandoning them, but how is their current behavior any different from murder? But I've already died once before, so I quickly pulled myself together from the shock. In my past life, I was the one being played like a fiddle. Now, it's time for a change. I turned my gaze back to those two people in the video. I have to say, they really know how to find joy in hardship. The house was shaking from the storm outside, yet they could still manage to laugh. Solace's eyes were filled with hope for the future. Once we get that payment from Lunaire, we'll have almost paid off our debts. By then, we'll even have enough left over for the baby's birth expenses. Lucius nodded. When the time comes, we'll buy a school district house near the best elementary school in the city, for your child. I'll definitely give them the best. Solace playfully nudged him. Oh, come on. Why are you also only thinking about the child? I'm your most important one. We haven't even had our wedding yet. You promised me you'd buy me the most gorgeous dress in the entire bridal shop. I just watched the two of them plan out their entire lives in perfect detail, even discussing where they'd be buried after death. I felt both disgusted and amused, nearly vomiting up the dessert I'd just eaten. I turned off the surveillance and decided to go to the recreation area downstairs to calm my complicated emotions. There's a swimming pool downstairs, exquisitely decorated to create an immersive tropical beach resort experience at first glance. I sat by the pool playing with the water for a while, then had a long video call with Gage chatting about everything under the sun. Right after hanging up with Gage, I immediately got another call from Solace. She started speaking urgently again, every word seeming to burn her mouth as it came out. Lunaire, you finally answered. I almost thought something happened to you. If you're not dead, can you come back? This temperature drop is absolutely terrifying. I've never begged anyone so humbly in my life. Could you please come back and bring us some clothes? I'll never forget your kindness to us. I tried hard to suppress my laughter, gazing at the sky outside the window. The wind carried snow with it. Not strong enough to blow people away but sharp enough to cut like knives. While they were begging me, they all seemed to forget one thing. I'm just a normal person who can also die in the face of natural disasters. I immediately summoned all my acting skills, panting heavily as I said, actually, when you called asking me to deliver clothes, I was already on my way to the villa. But I never expected the wind to be so strong on the road. My car even flipped over on the highway. I began screaming hysterically, deliberately hitting their sore spots with my words. This highway is so high up. If the car rolls down, I'll be completely obliterated. What should I do? I'd rather freeze to death than fall to my death. Please come save me. I've already got the clothes. Victory is just within reach. But why must fate treat me this way? I don't want to die yet. After saying that, I immediately held the phone away and covered my mouth to stifle a laugh. You want to use me for a ghost marriage? Well, I won't give you a complete corpse. Let's see what you'll do about that. Sure enough, they started panicking over there. Anyone who didn't know better would think they were genuinely worried about me. Lucius snatched the phone. Don't panic yet. Stay in the car. Send me your location. I'll come find you immediately. As he spoke, the phone transmitted wave after wave of wind howls resembling beastly roars. Just hearing it made one feel the biting cold there. Don't panic. Of course I won't panic. I'm living just fine. Why would I be in a hurry? Telling me not to worry with their words. But I can see they're the ones truly desperate. The two on the other end of the line were chattering away, discussing some strategy one couldn't be bothered to listen to. So I just let out a loud shout. Then I dramatically flipped my phone 360 degrees and tossed it onto the poolside lounge chair, simulating that something terrible had happened to me. After the performance, I hung up the phone and lay on the lounge chair laughing uncontrollably. Life and death are fated, wealth and honor depend on heaven, whether they can survive is up to them. They kept frantically calling me, but I didn't answer a single one. Soon after, my phone rang again with a continuous stream of message notifications. 5. At a glance, I realized someone had created a 3-person group chat, though I didn't know who. In the group chat, those two kept frantically tagging me, with the messages mixed with a bunch of live photos. Solace, Lunaire, are you still conscious? Lucius has gone out to look for you. You must hold on. Whether we can survive this depends entirely on you. Lucius sent a photo of the road along with a voice message accompanied by loud wind noises. Lunaire, I've left to find you. I'm almost near the clothing store, but I don't see your car anywhere. I kept playing dead in the group chat. Seeing that I wasn't responding, Lucius continued to roar. Fucking reply already, dead or alive. I need to see proof. I don't even see you or your car. What kind of dead act is this? This wind outside is no joke. I'm literally risking my life coming out to save you. Just say something already. I typed my reply while laughing. Oh my god. I didn't realize you cared so much about whether I live or die. I'm so touched, but you don't need to come. Another gust of wind just blew and flipped my car over again. I'm safe now, but I definitely won't dare drive near the coast anymore. You all take care. I'm going to find somewhere to hide first. The moment I sent the message, Lucius furiously sent several voice messages. Just hearing his voice, I could sense his wretched state from being battered by the snowstorm. I fucking walked this far for you on foot. Are you goddamn messing with me? Did you even come to deliver the supplies? Feeling his rage, I laughed so hard I was rolling around on the recliner. I replied, you've come this far. You're probably almost at the clothing store by now. Instead of wasting time cursing me, you should hurry up and grab more clothes for your dear wife. Before Lucius could even reply, Solace sent a voice message first. If not for her piercing cries, they might have been completely drowned out by the howling wind. Lucius, Lunaire, forget about the supplies for now. You need to come back immediately. The first floor windows have been shattered by the wind. Snow is pouring in everywhere. What should we do? The fire had gone out, but the house was still shaking. It was no longer safe for anyone to stay inside. I was so curious about the state of the house that I immediately started a group video call. The two of them quickly answered the call. In Solace's video feed, the house was almost in ruins, with shattered windows and massive snowblocks rushing into the rooms like a tidal wave. The shaky first-person perspective combined with Solace's distant then close screams creates an immersive feeling of being in a post-apocalyptic horror movie. Lucius was also being blown by the wind as if drifting through snow. Looking utterly disheveled, he urgently shouted, Solace, are you okay? Hold on a bit longer, Lunaire, and I will be back soon. Lunaire, stop acting like it's none of your business. This is a matter of life and death. You're the only one with a car right now. Go save her. My overly calm video footage looks out of place sandwiched between two extreme survival-style videos. Without saying a word, I calmly popped a grape into my mouth and started a mukbang in the video. Lucius roared, Lunaire, what the hell are you eating? You've got time to eat. Why does your side look so bright and quiet? You're not even in the car. I calmly ate another grape. The screen from Solace suddenly flipped and fell to the ground, turning black, leaving only her faint voice audible. Lucius, the living room light fell and hit my leg. I can't move now. My stomach hurts so much. What should I do? Lucius seemed to have lost all his strength as he pleaded helplessly. Lunaire, where exactly are you right now? I beg you, please save Solace. She's carrying my child. If you save her today, I'll serve you like a slave for the rest of my life. Solace loves watching the ocean more than anything this year. We finally had the chance to fulfill her wish, only to encounter this extreme weather. I don't want her to die with regrets. His words suddenly hit my funny bone. I laughed uncontrollably in the video, completely unrestrained and shameless. So her wish is to see the ocean. I can grant that for her right now. After saying this, I stood up and flipped my phone camera to pan around the luxurious swimming pool. The lighting on the walls and ceiling of this swimming pool is exceptionally unique, creating an illusion of actually being by the seaside. I boasted, well, even though it's not a real beach, it's quite realistic, letting you see such a beautiful sight before you die. I'm kind enough, aren't I? If those two weren't fools, they should have realized by now that I was staying in a luxury hotel. Lucius was so furious he almost lost it. You've been lying to us all along, haven't you? I came out here to save you out of the goodness of my heart, and you've been staying in such a safe, high-class place all this time. Are you even human? I said indifferently. Of course I'm human, but I'm not so sure about you all. You know exactly why you came out to save me. Lucius, do you really think I don't know you've lost everything? Seeing how well I was doing, Solace, who had been lying on the ground, suddenly regained his strength and means. She cried out in a tearful voice, so what if Lucius went bankrupt? Do you really want to watch us die with your own eyes? Aren't you afraid of nightmares when midnight comes? Aren't you afraid of karma? There's an unborn child in my belly. I laughed again. My conscience is clear. Unlike you who are full of sinister schemes, instead of exhausting yourselves cursing me, you'd better save some energy to write your wills. Let's end the conversation here today. I'm tired and need to get my beauty sleep in my warm, luxurious suite. After saying that, I hung up the video call and turned off my phone. I stayed in the hotel like this for 3 days and nights before the terrifying snowstorm gradually subsided. Although the snowstorm had stopped, the sky remained gloomy, as if mourning for the entire city. Countless trees were crushed by the snowstorm, and some old houses were destroyed, resulting in numerous casualties. I marvel at how fortunate I am to have the privilege of sheltering in a secure hotel. At the same time, I grieve for those who suffered harm in the snowstorm. When transportation finally resumed, Gage rushed back from abroad at top speed to find me at the hotel. Before we could properly catch up, I received a call from the hospital. The nurse said there's a patient named Lucius in poor mental state, making a fuss and demanding to see me. What? He's quite lucky to have survived. I wasn't afraid of his invitation at all, and went straight to the hospital with Gage. I want to see what other tricks he has up his sleeve. Gage and I walked through the hospital corridor, and at the end, I caught sight of a figure both familiar and strange. It was Lucius, but now he was leaning on a crutch, clearly missing a leg. I calmed my turbulent emotions, then slowly walked toward him. Lucius' eyes were bloodshot. When he saw me, he bared his teeth and came hobbling over, leaning heavily on his cane. Lunaire, you bitch, you actually dared to come, despite missing a leg. His movement speed was nothing to scoff at. As he came closer to me, he lunged forward to slap me, but was kicked away by Gage. Lucius took the opportunity to collapse onto the ground in a pitiful state and immediately began wailing dramatically, "Six, everyone, come and see, look at this vile woman named Lunaire. She went behind my back to find another man, living it up in a luxury hotel during a snowstorm, not caring whether her husband lives or dies. She pretended to ask for my help. I lost a leg trying to save her, nearly lost my life. And this is how she repays me. How can someone so cruel still stand here unharmed?" His cries were so pitiful that many passers-by stopped because of the commotion he caused. Many sympathized with his plight, helping him up and offering comforting words. Meanwhile, those bystanders shot me countless cold glances. That couple may look decent, but who knew they'd be such people behind closed doors? Look how badly they've hurt that man. Yeah. My dad works in the same department as that man. I heard he had to amputate due to frostbite, but look at how healthy his wife appears. She doesn't seem like someone who's endured harsh storms at all. Gage raised an eyebrow slightly and pointed at the patient name list by the ward entrance. "Solace, I remember her. She's your little lover, isn't she? She's still alive, yet you could say such things. Besides, wasn't it you who betrayed Lunaire first back then?" Lucius immediately retorted. "Don't think I don't know you've been in contact with that Gage boy. Did you expect me to remain chaste for you forever? Even if you hate me, you shouldn't take it out on Solace. She's carrying my child, and now, because of your refusal to help, she's lying in the emergency room." He was clearly twisting the facts. Helpless in his current disheveled state, he unwittingly lent credibility to this absurd claim. Clearly I was the victim in my past life. Yet in this lifetime I've become the murderer in Lucius's narrative. I could only respond with a speechless smile. "Lucius, you're quick to assign blame. Your leg was amputated due to frostbite. What does that have to do with me? Did I command the heavens to unleash this blizzard? Did I force all these poor souls into emergency hospital care? If you really want justice, then you should go ask the heavens." As soon as the words were spoken, the medical staff in the operating room walked out. "I'm sorry, the patient's child was already stillborn and couldn't be saved. Her legs had to be amputated, but fortunately, her life was spared." Hearing this good news, I couldn't help but curl the corners of my lips. I took Gage's hand, intending to lead him away from this troubled place. Lucius, however, grabbed both of our legs. "You're not allowed to leave. Solace and I still need a lot of money for follow-up treatments. It's your fault we've ended up in this situation. You must take responsibility. Pay up." Then, he turned an ingratiating gaze toward Gage. "Gage, I really underestimated you. I never thought you'd have your day of rising to fame and fortune. Now that you're so wealthy, it's only natural to help us out a bit. You can't just be a miserly rich man, can you?" Gage let out a cold laugh before kicking Lucius away again. "I'd rather donate all my money than give you a single cent, because you don't deserve it." Lucius clutched his head and gritted his teeth, saying, "Lunaire and I aren't divorced yet. If you don't give me the money, I'll never sign the divorce papers." Gage laughed even louder, dialing up the sarcasm to the maximum. "Suit yourself. After all, Lunaire is a woman you'll never have for the rest of your life." After saying that, Gage protectively held my waist as we left the hospital. After being discharged from the hospital, I deleted all contact information of Lucius and Solace, devoting myself wholeheartedly to the development of Gage's company. The company's growth was smooth sailing. We donated most of our assets to charity and became philanthropic ambassadors. Gage and I made a promise to each other to cherish one another for a lifetime, even without a proper marriage certificate. 2 months later, I became pregnant and was soon to have a little home for the three of us. In the CEO's office, I sat on Gage's lap as we picked out decorations for our new home together. A group of uninvited guests barged in from the first floor all the way to the office, armed with weapons. Lucius kicked open the office door, holding a phone that was live streaming. "Folks, today you'll witness what it truly means when they say justice may be delayed, but it's never denied. You won't believe it until you see it, and once you do, it'll shock you." To everyone's surprise, Solace appeared in the camp pushing her own wheelchair, holding a sign that read, "Give me back my child, give me back my legs." As she gazed at the luxurious decor of the office, a flicker of envy and shrewdness flashed in her eyes. She spoke with full vigor, like a righteous envoy carrying out heaven's will. "Everyone, look quickly. This despicable couple spends all their time enjoying luxury in such a lavish place. My poor unborn child. Our happy family of 3 was ruined because of this poisonous woman." I remained seated in Gage's lap, appearing calm on the surface. "Enough with this talk of justice. Isn't it just money you're after?" Lucius pointed his phone camera at me and Gage. "Of course we want money. You caused Solace and me to lose limbs, and made my child die in the womb. 1 million per life. That's 3 million in total." I flashed a peace sign at the camera and laughed. "Are you live streaming this?" Remember to add a beauty filter for me, okay? The brother waving the flag for Lucius behind spoke up. Of course it's live. How else would we record your crimes? You don't know this yet, but Lucius has already exposed your crimes online. The entire internet is waiting for you two to face judgment. I entered the live stream myself and saw the overwhelming flood of curses inside. That shameless couple is too arrogant. They must be taught a lesson. Abandoning her husband in a snowstorm to go carousing with another man, she's more venomous than a viper. Gage and I have been completely focused on the company lately, paying little attention to the online world, but that's fine, out of sight, out of mind. I open my phone gallery again and point to the video toward Lucius's camera. In the video, a man and woman sat chatting happily by the campfire. The person in the video says, "I secretly arranged a ghost marriage for Luna Iyer. The other family is wealthy and offered several million, even in death. I must ensure her body remains intact. Luna Iyer was lucky to die. What kind of life would someone like her have? We're actually doing a good deed." This is exactly the video captured by the surveillance, which I screen recorded and saved for future contingencies. As soon as this video was shown, the live chat's attitude did a complete 180-degree turn. Even the brothers Lucius specifically invited for support began to waver. "Lucius, you never told us about this part. The people in this video are clearly you guys. Ghost marriages are illegal. You even promised to share the money with us if the job was done. Turns out you were playing us. The ones trying to harm others were always you." 7. We're out. Those brothers were straightforward folks. When they said they quit, they meant it. Immediately throwing their flags on the ground and walking away. For a moment, Lucius and Solace's expressions turned as ugly as if they'd eaten dog shit. Gage patted my head, then slowly addressed Lucius. "Lucius, you're so furious, but how can you be sure the child Solace is carrying is actually yours?" Lucius's face darkened further. "What do you mean?" Gage couldn't be bothered to explain further and simply threw the paternity test report in front of Lucius. "On the day Solace had her miscarriage, I had someone collect DNA from the fetal remains and compare it with yours. See for yourself." Lucius trembled as he picked up the report, repeatedly verifying the information before tearing the paper to shreds in a frenzy. "This can't be. This can't be." He desperately shook Solace's shoulders. "Solace, tell me if this is true. Is the child in your belly really someone else's?" The evidence was irrefutable. Solace already had a guilty conscience, and now being pressed for answers. She turned pale and couldn't utter a word. Her panic and silence were answer enough. In the next second, dozens of police officers were already in position, surrounding the two individuals, ready to sanction them at any moment. Lucius glared furiously at Solace. "I loved you so much, yet you betrayed me. Why did both you and Luna Iyer have to betray me?" Before the words even finished, Lucius suddenly pulled out a fruit knife hidden in his pocket and plunged the blade directly into Solace's chest. Before Solace could even cry out in surprise, she was instantly slain by Lucius's blade. "I told you to find another man. I told you not to betray me. This is what you get. Since our happy days are over, let's die together." He had completely lost his sanity and even attempted to break through the police barricade to stab me and Gage to death. Unfortunately, before the blade could touch me, Lucius was already shot down and died on the spot. Later, their remains were taken away. The police also legally dealt with the netizens who led the online harassment against me and Gage. A farce finally cleared the names of me and the one I love. After everything ended, Gage and I moved to a new city and started a new life. We quickly obtained our marriage certificate. On a refreshing summer day, we held an elegant wedding by the sea. In autumn, I gave birth to my first daughter, the fruit of love between me and my beloved. We named her Swayan. May your days be warmed by small comforts, and your years graced with little peace. Henceforth, may life be filled with happiness and safety. Story 2. In the Doomsday, killing is not restricted by the law, and I was reborn 10 minutes before the arrival of the Doomsday together with the person who hates me. There is no time to stockpile supplies, nor is there a strong fortress to hide in. There is only a restaurant that can be reached in 10 minutes on foot. The game starts in hell mode, and the only thing I can do is to run forward desperately. 1. When I woke up, I found myself standing in front of the Ferris wheel in the amusement park. What's going on? Didn't I just die in the mouth of a zombie? Why am I still alive? 3 minutes later, I was sure that I had been reborn on the day when the Doomsday arrived. This day is Beau's 17th birthday. I'm 2 years older than him, and I'm 19 this year. My mother and his father are both out of town, so they gave us money and asked me to go to the amusement park with him, but my mother doesn't know that Beau has always thought that my mother and I have destroyed his family. No matter how hard we try, he simply doesn't accept us. Even later, after I met him again in the Doomsday, the way he looked at me also made me shudder, but now I don't have time to reminisce, because in 10 minutes the amusement park will turn into a living hell. I must immediately hide in the restaurant of the amusement park, where there is food and drink that can sustain us for a while. In the previous life, Bo walked away on his own after we arrived at the amusement park, so he is not by my side now. I looked around to find the location of the restaurant and walked towards it while calling my mother, but no one answered on my mother's side. Suddenly, a tall and cold figure blocked my way. It's Bo, wearing a white hoodie, black pants, and a baseball cap, with his hands in his pockets, looking nonchalant. Why did he show up? We didn't meet when the doomsday started in the previous life. The young man looked down at me. I subconsciously took a step back. Although he didn't kill me in the previous life, the way he looked at me now was very similar to the way he looked at me when I saw him again in the shelter in the previous life. Playful, violent, and controlling everything. Sister, so you're here. I've been looking for you for a long time, Bo said innocently. Where did you go just now? You didn't reply to my messages either, I said calmly, suppressing my emotions. There are still 9 minutes left before the doomsday. As long as I can hold on for these 9 minutes, I can shake him off when there is chaos. I just wandered around. I'm hungry, let's go eat, he said, pulling my wrist and walking forward. I was taken aback. He used to be unwilling to have any physical contact with me. When I accidentally touched him at home, he would frown, but now, he is holding my hand, and he is holding it very tightly, too. Bo is tall with long legs, and I had to run to keep up with him. Along the way, many girls cast glances at Bo, and a lot of people even raised their phones to take pictures of him. He is extremely good-looking and tall, and he has always been very popular with girls. Once, a girl in his school secretly took a photo of him and posted it online. And the video received millions of likes. You're Bo, right? Can I take a photo with you? A pretty girl came up to us and said. Bo looked down at her. Get lost. The girl looked a bit embarrassed and walked away dejectedly. Is that his girlfriend? I don't think so. It said online that he doesn't have a girlfriend, but he's holding her hand. Bo was indifferent to these discussions and continued to pull me forward quickly. But I was puzzled. Although he had a bad attitude towards my mother and me in the past 2 years, he was still polite and restrained when facing outsiders. He wouldn't tell a girl to get lost in public, especially when someone was recording a video. Let go of my hand. I tried to break his grip. Instead, he held my hand even tighter, and the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. Hold on, later you'll cry and thank me. What did he mean? I suddenly had a bad premonition in my heart. We soon arrived at the restaurant. There is still 1 minute left before the virus infection. He looked around and kicked open the door of the back kitchen. Several chefs in the back kitchen immediately asked us to leave. Bo still ignored them. He picked up a knife casually, then pushed me into the corner, his eyes like hooks. Stay here and don't move, or you'll die. When the chefs saw that he was holding a knife, they all ran out to call the security guards. In the previous life, they left because they went out to check what was happening. After a while, screams came from outside, and the crowd ran around in all directions. With fear on everyone's face, I looked out of the window and saw some people frantically biting the people around them. Blood was gushing out, and the living people were struggling desperately, but the struggle was meaningless. The bitten person would turn into a zombie in at most 10 minutes and continue the next round of biting. Although I had experienced it once in my previous life, seeing so many lively faces fall in front of me and stand up again without consciousness, I still felt sad and desperate. 3. Bo closed the doors and windows of the back kitchen and moved heavy objects to block them. Then he stood calmly behind the door with a knife in his hand. Injured people kept running into the restaurant to take shelter. Some people also wanted to hide here. But no matter how they pleaded, Bo remained indifferent. Looking at his back, the bad premonition just now turned into a certain answer. Bo was also reborn. Because he was reborn, he came to find me, brought me to the restaurant to take shelter, and chose this back kitchen with sufficient food and water as the survival base. I don't know how he will deal with me later. At this moment, my mother called. Her words were as urgent as in the previous life. Eileen, quickly hide with Bo. Don't come out no matter what happens. Hearing my mother's voice again, I couldn't hold back my tears. Mom, I called out. Bo looked back at me but didn't say anything. He still doesn't seem to have the intention of contacting his parents. Maybe he knows that his parents are no longer alive. Mom, you also hide well. Please don't have anything bad happen to you. I held the phone tightly. My mother coughed. Eileen, if your uncle and I are gone, you and Bo must take good care of yourselves and live on. I know, Mom. You also stay alive. We will definitely meet again, I said. My mother didn't say anything more on the other end of the phone. There were only chaotic noises, and after a while, the noises also stopped. I closed my eyes in pain. I knew that my mother might be in great danger. It turns out that even if I live another life, something still won't change. Screams continued outside. Hell was singing. Since there is no way back, then keep moving forward in the dark. Mom, I will live well, even if I can only see your bones in the future. 20 minutes later, the restaurant was full of zombies, and there were also some people who were in the process of transformation. In the previous life, I was too timid to come out and hide. Now I witnessed the scene of the first batch of people being transformed into zombies with my own eyes. They leaned weakly against the walls and tables, their bodies covered in blood, their eyes gradually losing focus until their originally clear eyes turned into lifeless grayish-white. Among these people, there were also children and babies. They sensed the breath of us living people and stumbled towards us. I wasn't afraid. The doors and windows here were very sturdy. As long as they were closed properly, there would be no problem. Bo found disinfectant and alcohol and poured them at the door and on the windowsill, which could cut off our breath to a certain extent. Fortunately, you brought me here to eat, otherwise, we would have ended up like them too, I said, pretending to be grateful as I looked at Bo. Bo twirled the knife in his hand nimbly, with a half-smile. I told you, you would cry and thank me. At this time, killing is no longer restricted by the law. I'm much weaker than him, and it would be very easy for him to kill me. Fortunately, he hasn't done anything to me yet, but I still didn't let down my guard. I also secretly took a knife and hid it in my sleeve. After all, he used to hate me and my mother so much. After the screams lasted for about an hour, the whole park gradually calmed down. The colorful balloons were still floating, the music of the carousel was still echoing, and several white doves flew into the sky, leaving a trail of wind. The park was full of densely packed zombies, men, women, the old and the young, and many children, all covered in blood. Some of their bodies were incomplete, and they walked aimlessly and crookedly. I looked in the direction of the fantasy maze. There were my future teammates. They would come here to look for food in 3 days. They were very friendly. In the previous life, we stuck together and advanced and retreated together in this doomsday. We held on for a full 2 years. With them around, I would be much safer. Bo started to take stock of the back kitchen. There were a lot of pre-prepared dishes in the freezer, and there were several boxes of drinks on the floor. If we saved them, these could last us 2 or 3 months. But in the previous life, my teammates and I only lasted for half a month and then left here, because we didn't store water in advance. We had to leave. After checking, Bo picked up the food and started eating. He ate very carefully and didn't waste a single grain of rice. This is a common characteristic of everyone who has lived in the doomsday. Looking at the food in the pot, I tried my best to hold back. In the 2 years from the start of the doomsday to my death in the previous life, I never had a good meal, and now, the hot food was right in front of me. But in order to make Bo relax his vigilance, I could only pretend that I didn't have the appetite to eat. After Bo finished eating, he started to find all the pots, bowls, and pans in the kitchen and filled them with water. I also helped him. He then cleared a space, spread some cardboard boxes on the ground, lay down, closed his eyes, and placed the knife beside his hand. In the previous life, he was also so cautious and defensive. He fell asleep quickly, as if he had done something very tiring. 5. When night fell, all the lights in the park turned on automatically. It was as dreamy as a fairy tale world, but there were no longer any people to appreciate the fairy tale. After eating something, I went to the staff's changing room. I found some clothes from my memory, then cleaned the place, disassembled some cardboard boxes, and made a bed in this narrow space, separated from Bo by a wall. My phone was filled with reports about the spread of the virus. In the pictures, there were panicked passers-by and zombies that would bite anyone they saw. The police and firefighters were desperately trying to save people, but in the end, they were surrounded by layer upon layer of zombies. The government appealed to everyone to hide in place. Many netizens also told everyone that if they found themselves injured, they should not run out. It would be best to tie themselves up or lock themselves in the room to avoid causing greater infection. These netizens were rational and right, but the reality is that everyone wants to live. When they are injured, they are extremely frightened and want to seek help. In the end, the spread of the virus accelerates rapidly. In just 2 days, the whole world falls. I swiped through the news that I had seen in the previous life one by one. Suddenly, the door was pushed open, and Bo appeared at the door with a somewhat flustered expression. "What's wrong? I thought there was an emergency." He glanced at me and then regained his calm. "We will take turns keeping watch starting today. I'll call you at midnight." I nodded, and he closed the door and left. I also fell asleep in a daze. I hadn't had a good sleep for 2 years. Although I was reborn with the body I had 2 years ago, I was still extremely exhausted mentally. I had a lot of strange dreams. I dreamed that Bo was actually saving me. I dreamed that he came through the tide of zombies and reached out his hand to me. Just as he was about to hold my hand, a bullet pierced his heart and then entered my chest, and we both died. After waking up from the dream, my heart still ached faintly, as if I had really been hit by a bullet. I checked the time. It was almost early morning. I walked out and saw Bo standing by the window with a can of Coke in his hand. The young man stared at the towering flames in the distance. The neon lights of the park reflected in his eyes, flickering on and off like the stars in the sky. Thinking of the dream just now and looking at him now, I had a dazed feeling, not knowing what was real and what was illusory. When Bo saw me, he said, Don't open the door no matter who is asking for help, or you won't even know how you died." After saying that, he lay down fully clothed and continued to sleep. I don't know what he experienced in the previous life that made him so unwilling to trust others, but I will trust my companions. There is both good and evil in the world. If others are kind to me, I will also be kind to them, and vice versa. 6. We spent the night safely. Early the next morning, dozens of planes flew over our heads. After a while, there were intense explosions from the city in the distance. Although the amusement park was on the edge of the urban area, we could still feel the ground shaking. The government wanted to block the spread of the virus by killing a large number of zombies. But there were still many survivors in the city, so they had to stop the bombing in the end. This is the reality. Clearly, they have the ability to kill zombies with hot weapons, but they dare not take action because they have to consider the living people. Otherwise, even if all the zombies are killed and the people are gone, everything will lose its meaning. When we were having breakfast, the zombies suddenly gathered in the direction of the fantasy maze. I knew that my companions from the previous life had attracted the attention of the zombies, but it would be a false alarm, and they would be safe. Bo also looked in that direction thoughtfully. Obviously, he was also suspicious. Now I'm worried that when my companions come on the third day, he won't let them in. In the previous life, Bo didn't like them. After having breakfast, I was about to go back to the changing room to rest when Bo handed me a boning knife. "What are you going to do?" I stammered and asked him. "I'm going to teach you how to protect yourself so that you don't hold me back," he said. I was stunned. He actually wanted to survive in the doomsday with me. Did I hear him right? He hung a chopping board on the wall, then picked up another knife. "Throw the knife with the strength like cracking a whip," he demonstrated, and the sharp knife hit the center of the chopping board. In the previous life, I initially used a prop bow and arrow that I picked up in the park. 3 of my teammates were from an archery hall. After their improvement in guidance, I could also shoot an arrow through a zombie's head. Later, we picked up the guns left by the sacrificed rescue team and gradually had our own means of survival. I deliberately didn't throw it accurately, and the knife fell to the ground. "Do it again." Bo stood by with his arms crossed, like a strict coach. After I failed several times in a row, he finally lost patience and came over. I thought he would laugh at me as he used to, but instead, he lifted my arm and taught me. "You know I'm a bit nearsighted. I don't think I can learn it," I said, showing weakness. "Don't rely on your eyes, use your heart, just like when you hold a scalpel," he said, holding my hand and throwing the knife. It also hit the center of the board. Although I'm studying medicine and have dissected mice, frogs, and such since my first year of college, it doesn't mean I can throw a throwing knife. Moreover, we are standing extremely close to each other now. We have lived under the same roof for 3 years, and this is the first time we've had such an intimate contact. He is a full head taller than me. Controlled by him like this, I can't escape at all. I'm afraid that in the next second, his knife will come across and cut my throat. 7. On the third day, I started to be a bit absent-minded because my teammates will come tomorrow, but how can I let them in tomorrow? One of my teammates' mothers will use herself as a decoy to lead the zombies away and buy them a chance to come to the restaurant. In the previous life, when that mother covered in blood led the zombies to run away into the distance, her last words were shouted at me standing by the window. "Child, please open the door for them. Parents who love their children will plan for their future even at the cost of their own lives." "What are you looking at?" Bo interrupted my recollection. I yawned. "I'm a bit sleepy and want to sleep. Can I change the watch time with you? Can I keep watch at night? This way, I can open the door for my teammates at dawn tomorrow." I saw a flicker in his eyes, and he seemed to be suspicious of me. However, even if he was reborn, he wouldn't know what would happen tomorrow. I didn't tell him these details in my previous life. "Go ahead," he finally agreed. I still didn't sleep soundly and had many fragmented dreams, some about my teammates and some about Bo. Finally, a voice came from afar. "Don't trust him." I woke up with a start. There was no one beside me, only the alarm on my phone vibrating. "You can go to the changing room to sleep. It's getting cold now. It won't be good if you catch a cold sleeping here. We don't have any medicine." I tried to send Bo away to buy a chance for my teammates to come in. He nodded. "Call me if there's anything." I didn't sleep all night. At dawn, I watched outside the window nervously. As soon as my teammates arrived, I immediately opened the window and let them jump in. At 6 o'clock, when the sky in the east was turning slightly white, there were dense footsteps approaching. My teammates were here. Just like in the previous life, the middle-aged woman running at the front used herself to lead the zombies away. Behind the zombies were 2 young boys and a delicate girl. They were my teammates. The woman saw me and said the same words to me. "Child, Please open the door for them. Without hesitation, I opened the window and shouted at my teammates, "Over here," coming quickly. My teammates immediately jumped in and then looked at the woman surrounded by zombies with sad cries. My heart was also pounding. Such commotion must have woken Bo up. When I looked back, he was indeed standing at the door, silent. "Sorry, I can't just stand by and watch someone die," I said. He didn't get angry, he just leaned against the doorframe quietly, exuding a sense of loneliness and desolation. For some reason, I didn't dare to look into his eyes and turned to look out the window. The woman had been surrounded by zombies. When the zombies dispersed, there was only an empty space left. My teammates looked at that place sorrowfully, crying depressively. The girl even fainted. The girl's name is Piper. She has the same birthday as Bo and was also here to celebrate at the amusement park. The woman just now was her mother. I immediately brought water. Her cousin Charlie thanked me and took the water to feed Piper. Piper slowly woke up and then hugged Charlie and cried bitterly. "If you want to die, cry louder," Bo said coldly. "What do you mean?" the other boy asked angrily. "His name is Easton, and he is Charlie's close friend." I quickly explained. "My younger brother doesn't mean any harm. Zombies are sensitive to sound, and crying will attract the zombies." At this time, some zombies outside also heard the sound and gathered towards us. Charlie immediately covered Piper's mouth and apologized to us. "Sorry, it was our oversight." Bo picked up the disinfectant and poured it in front of the door and window. Only then did the zombies slowly disperse. I also went over to help him. "I know you don't like crowds, but many hands make light work. We can help each other in the future," he said indifferently. "Whatever." I let out a sigh of relief. He had accepted them. While there was still natural gas, I cooked hot meals for my teammates. I also made Bo his favorite omelette rice to thank him for not making things difficult for me today. Charlie and the others didn't have much appetite, but Bo just lowered his head and calmly ate his meal. 8. The 5 of us started living together like this. Bo still taught me how to throw a throwing knife every day. His skills were praised even by Charlie and Easton, who said that if he learned archery, he might be able to join the national team. Bo would also respond politely, but sometimes I saw him staring coldly at Charlie, like a fierce beast lying in wait in the dark. Piper's mood gradually improved. She often followed Bo around and talked to him. And she would also secretly ask me about Bo's preferences. "Sister, why don't you and Bo have the same surname?" she asked me curiously. I told her the truth. "We're not biological siblings. We're from a blended family." "Oh, so that's it. Then you don't have a blood relationship," she drawled when she spoke. I keenly noticed that she liked Bo. I knew she liked Bo in the previous life. It wasn't just her. Many girls and even some boys in the shelter liked him. He is good looking, has strong organizational skills, and is tough in his methods. It's hard not to be attracted to him. I just didn't expect that in this life. Piper would be interested in Bo from the very beginning, especially since her mother had just passed away half a month ago. Because of the sudden increase in the number of people, food and water were consumed very quickly, especially water, even with the water we stored in advance. It wasn't enough. On the 20th day of the doomsday, Charlie began to plan to leave this place. Charlie is 22 years old this year. He is the oldest among the 5 of us and a member of the archery club. He is calm, decisive, and gentle, and has strong leadership skills. In the previous life, it was he who led us to survive from danger time and time again. Privately speaking, I have a crush on him. If we want to leave here, we need a car and weapons. I remember that there is a wilderness minefield next to us. There are bows and arrows in it. Although they are props, they can be modified to be lethal. There is a small chain supermarket outside the amusement park. After getting the bows and arrows, we can go there to survive, Charlie suggested, but there are so many zombies outside. Piper was worried. "We can use blood to attract the zombies here, and then we can go to the minefield." "Bo, Eileen, what do you think?" Charlie asked for our opinions. "Sure, I think it's okay." I naturally agreed because that's how we succeeded in the previous life. After all, this was the experience but with Piper's mother's life. Bo also said he had no objections, and we started to take action. Charlie and Easton cut their arms and dripped blood on their clothes. I also wanted to help, but Charlie stopped me. "No need. You girls are naturally weaker. Just take care of yourselves. We'll do these things." Bo watched all this indifferently and showed no intention of helping. Charlie hung the clothes outside the window. All the zombies that smelled the blood gathered towards that direction. We took the opportunity to open the door and run out. 9. There were severed limbs of people all along the way. We didn't have time to lament and could only run forward desperately. Charlie and Easton were the fastest and ran at the front. Piper and I followed closely behind, and Bo was at the end, obviously. He was the fastest among all of us. Could it be that he was protecting us? When we arrived at the wilderness minefield, there were also quite a few zombies around. The 5 of us attracted their attention, and they started walking towards us from all directions. Fortunately, the zombies were slower than us. We ran into the wilderness minefield and found those prop bows and arrows. In the Doomsday, bows and arrows are more suitable than guns because when using bows and arrows to kill zombies, there is no sound, and it won't attract other zombies. We carried the bows and arrows and continued to run outside the park. The zombies chased closely behind us. Fortunately, we finally reached the small supermarket without any major accidents. There were also 5 or 6 zombies in the small supermarket. Bo rushed forward first and took down one of them. He was extremely fast. With a swift movement of his hand, the zombie's head was pierced, and it didn't even have a chance to struggle. Charlie and Easton also went to help. At the last moment when the zombies were chasing after us, we entered the supermarket. Everyone worked together to hold the door and then pushed the freezer to block the door. There were scratching sounds from the zombies on the glass door. I went to the bathroom with ease, took out the toilet cleaner, and poured it into the gap of the door. The pungent smell immediately filled the air, and the zombies gradually dispersed. Although this small supermarket was only about 30 to 40 square meters, the shelves were full of water and food. We each picked up a bottle of water and gulped it down. Charlie's arm was still bleeding. I took a towel from the shelf and carefully bandaged it for him. Bo asked Charlie casually, as if on purpose, "You seem quite skilled at killing zombies. It doesn't seem like the level that can be achieved just by practicing archery." Charlie replied, "I also like rock climbing and martial arts in my spare time, so I know a bit." Bo let out an "oh" and said, "I didn't expect that you seemed so gentle but like such adventurous and intense sports." Charlie pushed up his glasses on the bridge of his nose. "There's nothing wrong with that, is there? You, a high school student, are also very proficient in throwing knives. Who did you learn from?" Bo took a sip of water unhurriedly. "I practiced by myself." I felt that they were testing each other, but I had no evidence. 10 at night, Piper came to me worriedly. "Sister Eileen, I got my period. Will it attract the zombies?" In the Doomsday, a woman's menstrual period is something that makes people very nervous and afraid. Moreover, due to the influence of hormones, the menstrual periods of women who often live together will also synchronize, which will attract zombies exponentially. Piper and I later synchronized our periods. So every time we got our periods, we were on tenterhooks. "It's okay, you go to the bathroom first, and I'll figure out a way." I took a pack of sanitary napkins and several towels from the shelf, and also found garbage bags and tape. When I turned around, Bo was standing there. After seeing what was in my hand, he indifferently averted his eyes. I walked past him. In the bathroom, I first wrapped Piper's buttocks with a towel and then wrapped it tightly with a plastic bag. Although it was troublesome, it could effectively cut off the smell for the time being. "Is this too obvious?" "I'm a bit embarrassed," Piper said shyly. I comforted her. "It's okay. There's no need to be ashamed of your period. If anyone dares to laugh at you, I won't let them off." "Thank you, sister. You're so kind." After we went out, Charlie and Easton were observing the situation outside through the gap in the door. Bo, on the other hand, disassembled a chair and started a fire. There was a small pot on the fire, and something was boiling in the pot. He actually carried the soup pot from the back kitchen here. "Are you boiling brown sugar water?" Piper asked. There was an open brown sugar box on the ground. "Yeah." Bo added some firewood to the fire. "Thank you for your concern. I'm actually okay." Piper's face turned crimson. Bo looked at her in confusion, then at me, and left without saying a word. Piper poured herself some brown sugar water and sat beside me, sipping it. There was a faint blush on her face. At night, Charlie and Easton kept watch in the first half of the night, and I and Bo kept watch in the second half of the night. By the fire, Piper slept closely beside me on my right, and Bo slept with his back to me on my left, keeping a certain distance. Everything was peaceful. After falling asleep, I had a dream again. This time, I dreamed that I was carrying Bo, who was covered in blood and struggling to walk in the snow. He told me to leave him and run, but I actually didn't abandon him. Finally, countless zombies came out of the forest, and I shot myself. I woke up in a cold sweat, thinking that this dream was really ridiculous. How could I not run away when I knew I would die if I stayed with him? When I wanted to turn over, I found that Bo was sleeping beside me at some point, and one of his hands was resting on my arm. We were very close, and we could hear each other's breathing. No wonder I dreamed that I couldn't walk while carrying him, so this was the reason. I carefully moved his arm away. Unexpectedly, he opened his eyes immediately, and my current action looked as if I was making a pass at him. Just as I was thinking about how to explain, Charlie and Easton walked towards us. It was time to change shifts. "It's our turn to keep watch. I was just about to wake you up." I took the opportunity to explain to avoid the embarrassment. "Yeah." He withdrew his hand, stood up, took a bottle of water from the shelf, and sat by the door. I also sat over. Through the blocked glass door, I saw that the moon outside was very round. Under the gentle moonlight, there were wandering zombies. No, only the sun and the moon are not afraid of this world. Just like before, we didn't speak. He drank his water, and I ate my teddy bear cookies. After Piper woke up, she walked up to Bo and looked at the moonlight, sighing. The moon is really beautiful today. Bo leaned lazily against the back of the chair and said indifferently, the cold moon and the warm sun, they wear away people's lives. My heart trembled when I heard this. This sentence laments the speed of time, the shortness of life, and the erosion of life. I felt that there was an indescribable sadness in his heart, but he clearly seemed to not care about anything. What does that sentence mean? Piper asked Bo curiously. Bo replied, it doesn't mean anything. 11. The temperature was getting lower and lower. Although there was currently enough food, there were no clothes or quilts, and the cardboard and wood were also running out as we burned them. When Charlie and I were keeping watch, I was shivering with cold. He took off his coat and handed it to me. No need, you'll catch a cold. I handed the coat back. He smiled gently. I'm not afraid of the cold. I even go winter swimming in winter. My heart warmed. Just as I was about to put on the coat, Bo suddenly appeared and took the coat away. He threw the coat back to Charlie and gave me his coat. You go to sleep. I'll keep watch. I wanted to say that I wasn't sleepy, but I felt that he might get angry. Forget it. I'm too lazy to argue. The next day, Charlie proposed going back to the city to find supplies. This was the same route as in the previous life, but if we followed this plan, our ending wouldn't change. While I was thinking about what reason to use to make Charlie change his mind, Bo said, we're not going back to the city. Not going back to the city. Why? There are a lot of zombies in the city. It's meaningless to go back. Then where are we going? Bo turned to ask me, where do you want to go? I want to go to Y City. I wanted to find my mother, although I didn't know if I could see her again. Moreover, that direction is completely opposite to the tide of zombies. It has a mountainous terrain with complex landforms, and it's difficult for the tide of zombies to form. Maybe we can live there for a longer time. Bo didn't object at all. It seemed that he had the same plan. Charlie, Easton, and the others were still hesitating. Piper stood up and said, brother, let's team up with Sister Eileen. Bo is right. There must be a lot of zombies in the city now. Easton also agreed. The city has been bombed. It may have become ruins now. Finally, we reached a consensus and decided to take Y City as our final destination and go as far as we can. 12. We decided to find a car first. There were many abandoned vehicles on the nearby road. When there were few zombies, Charlie took the initiative to drive, and we provided support for him. During this period, Charlie had transformed the prop bows and arrows into lethal weapons, and I had also practiced with them for a long time. Charlie rushed towards an SUV. I pulled the bowstring full and shot through the head of a zombie approaching him. Easton and Piper also didn't fall behind. Only Bo played with the knife in his hand indifferently. I always felt that he was hostile towards Charlie, the kind of hostility that wants to kill him, although I don't know the reason. If one day they really have a conflict, I will choose to help Charlie. Charlie successfully drove the car over. We quickly got in. The zombies also surrounded us. Charlie stepped on the gas pedal, knocked them down, and drove forward. Although many cars on the road had broken down and blocked the way, this place was close to the suburbs, and the car could directly drive over the greenbelt and farmland. Bo had already downloaded the offline map. We also removed all the rented power banks from the small supermarket and took them with us, hoping to last until we reached Y City. The next road was completely unfamiliar to us. I silently prayed that we could receive the blessing of heaven. Half an hour later, we stopped in front of a self-built house. There were no zombies around, and the door was wide open. We didn't know if there were zombies inside. Even if there were, we had to go in and get some cold-proof clothes, quilts, and other things. Otherwise, we would freeze to death even if we weren't bitten to death by the zombies. We walked into the house carefully and opened a bedroom. Immediately, a foul smell came. On the ground were two mutilated bodies that had been gnawed on. A small zombie about 10 years old stood in the corner and immediately growled and pounced towards us when it saw us come in. It seemed that the child was infected with the virus first and then ate his parents. This was a heartbreaking tragedy. Bo solved the little zombie with one knife. Charlie moved the little zombie next to his parents, making the family of three lie together. False benevolence and righteousness. I heard Bo snort disdainfully. Fortunately, Charlie didn't hear it. We went to other rooms, got some quilts and clothes, and walked quickly towards the car. Changed the car. Bo asked me to ride in the car parked beside with him. Charlie was puzzled. Why don't you ride in the same car as us? Bo replied, it's too crowded. Then I'll go with you. Piper walked over with her things in her arms. Don't you have a family? Bo said and closed the door, leaving Piper with an embarrassed expression. The vehicles drove on the road one in front of the other. Everything outside the window was desolate. Zombies wandered around, and from time to time, Wild animals that we didn't usually see rushed past. This virus was very strange. It only spread among humans, and animals were not affected. Some people said that this was a cleansing of humanity by heaven, in order to have a better world. While I was lost in thought, Bo suddenly asked, "Do you believe in reincarnation?" "What reincarnation?" I was startled. Had he discovered something about me? But he didn't say anything. He held the steering wheel with one hand and stared ahead. The atmosphere was a bit heavy with silence. He turned on the music again. The prelude of summer's desire suddenly sounded. Give up the rules, indulge in love, let go of myself, and empty the future. 13. The vehicle kept moving forward, and we didn't see any living people along the way. We collected some useful things as we walked, such as medicine, food, and medical tools. We took everything that might be useful. When we reached the gas station, we stopped to refuel. When there was no electricity, we found the backup power supply to generate electricity. After resting there for one night, we continued on our way, the journey that could be completed in 24 hours by car before the doomsday now took us 5 days just to leave the province due to some roads being blocked and some unexpected situations. When we reached the territory of J City, it started to snow. The fine first snow fluttered in the wind like pear blossoms. To save fuel, we didn't turn on the air conditioner in the car. I wrapped myself in a quilt and curled up in the passenger seat. After climbing up a slope, Charlie's car suddenly broke down. We got out to help check it. Easton kicked the tire and said, "An imported car worth more than 1 million actually can't compare with a car worth tens of thousands of yuan." While the three of them were fixing the car, Piper and I were on guard nearby, looking at the falling snow in the sky. I couldn't help but think of the dream of carrying Bo forward in the snow again. I thought it was just a dream before. But after seeing the snow, I felt that the dream was very real. Piper reached out her hand to catch a falling snowflake and said, "Sister Eileen, have you heard that the person who holds your hand first on the day of the first snow will be the one who accompanies you for a lifetime?" I held her hand and said, "Okay, let's live well together for the rest of our lives." She smiled and shook off my hand. "Not this kind of relationship between us. I mean the relationship between a man and a woman." I shook my head and said, "I haven't heard of it." Piper looked at Bo and asked, "Does Bo have a girlfriend?" I thought for a while and said, "Yes, he does." Piper looked a bit disappointed. "His girlfriend is called Chinese, math, English, geography, physics, and chemistry," I added. Piper's eyes lit up, and she punched me lightly. "Sister Eileen, that's not funny at all." I smiled and asked, "Do you like him?" Piper didn't hide it and said, "I think he and I are destined. Look. We were born on the same day, month, and year, and we escaped together. Even books wouldn't write it like this." I'm going to confess to him, I also thought it was very coincidental, but thinking of all of Bo's violent actions in the previous life, I still advised this bright girl, "I suggest you wait and get to know him better." Piper let out a disappointed "oh." I felt like I had poured cold water on her. At this time, the car was also fixed, and we were ready to set off again. When we walked to the car, Piper's foot suddenly slipped and she bumped into me. I fell forward uncontrollably. Just when I thought I was going to have an intimate contact with the ground, a strong hand firmly grabbed my hand. It was Bo. "Can't you watch where you're going?" Bo stared coldly at Piper. Piper's face looked a bit ugly, and she got into the car feeling wronged. I stared blankly at my hand. Flakes of snow fell on my palm. Although I didn't believe in the first snow law, I somehow felt a strange feeling in my heart. 14. After walking for another week, we saw the battlefield, dozens of rescue vehicles, rotting corpses all over the ground, charred land, and weapons scattered everywhere. Judging from the scene, the rescue team encountered zombies here and opened fire, but in the end, they failed. There were still bullets left in the guns, and the cars were still here. It could be inferred that they fought until the last moment of their lives. It's a pity that the virus spreads faster than bullets. In the end, some people died, and some turned into zombies. We collected the guns, daggers, military shovels, bullets, grenades, and other things and moved them to the car. In the previous life, Bo relied on these to form a team, establish a shelter, and become a local tyrant. Those who didn't obey him were executed by him with a single shot. "How do you use a gun?" Easton held the gun and asked. Waving the muzzle of the gun around randomly, Bo pressed down his gun and said sternly, "Never point the muzzle of the gun at your own people." Easton was a bit unconvinced. "You know how to use a gun," Bo replied. "I've played outdoor CS, just CS, look how proud you are." Easton sneered. As a result, he accidentally pulled the trigger. Although no one was hurt, the sound of the gun was particularly harsh in this empty place. Both Bo and I changed our expressions. If there were zombies nearby, they would definitely be attracted. Get in the car immediately. Bo ran towards the car while holding the gun and keeping watch. Charlie and the others also realized that something was wrong. Soon we started the vehicle, but this section of the road was full of potholes, which hindered our speed. In the white fog, staggering figures appeared. 1, 2, 3, I counted. There were probably more than 20 zombies in this situation. It was best to kill them quietly, otherwise, there would be more and more. Bo stopped the car and said, "Take the bows and arrows and get on the roof of the car." He jumped up first and stretched out his hand to me. I didn't hesitate to hold his hand and climbed up. Charlie and the others also got on the roof of their car at this time. Bo began to give orders. Stand back to back. Each person is responsible for one direction. Don't make any sound. In the previous life, it was Charlie who gave orders in this kind of situation. Now he was completely suppressed by Bo. I held my breath and pulled the bowstring full. The long arrow broke through the air and hit a zombie in the eye. The zombie fell to the ground with a thud. The young man behind me also shot arrows one after another, and every arrow hit the target. Our rhythm was in sync, as if we had cooperated with such tacit understanding before. Charlie and the others also quickly dealt with the zombies. When there were only 2 zombies left, we ran out of arrows. They were 2 old zombies, their teeth were gone, and their hands were tied together with hemp rope. It should be that this old couple, after being infected, knew that they didn't have much time left, so they tied themselves up so that they wouldn't be separated. We made a promise to be together for 100 years. If one of us dies at the age of 97, we'll wait for 3 years on the Niha Bridge. Bo took out a dagger and prepared to jump out of the car. Piper pleaded, "Let them go. They can't harm anyone like this." Bo still jumped out and resolutely ended it all. The car drove forward bumpily. I looked back at the old couple lying on the ground until they became a small black dot and finally completely disappeared from my sight. "Why are you crying?" Bo looked a bit irritable, completely different from his calmness just now. Only then did I realize that there were tears on my face. Maybe it's too cold. The cold made me cry. I casually made an excuse. "Do you think I'm heartless?" "No." He was silent for a while, seemingly a bit tired. "They have already been dead for a long time, completely dead, and they can never come back to life." I looked at him, with the appearance of a 17-year-old. Even if he lived for 2 years in the previous life, he only had 19 years of life experience, but I felt that he seemed to have been alone for a very long time. 15. The snow was falling heavier and heavier. At night, we took a rest at a gas station. We didn't see any zombies around. After entering the gas station, it was also very quiet inside. It seemed that this place hadn't been invaded by zombies yet. Bo, Charlie, and Easton went to find the backup power supply. And Piper and I carried the quilts inside, but when I went in again, I smelled the foul smell, right in front of us. "There are zombies." I immediately pulled Piper and ran outside. As a result, Piper stumbled and blocked the door. A zombie grabbed my arm. With a whoosh, my down jacket was torn open by his sharp nails, and the duck down flew everywhere. I instinctively raised my foot to kick, but this zombie was very tall, and I couldn't kick him away at all. His hand reached for my neck, and I could already feel his cold fingers on my skin. Just when I thought I was going to die here, the zombie fell heavily backward. Then there were a few dull sounds. The zombie struggled twice and then stopped moving. The lights also came on at this time. I saw Bo covering the zombie's head with a cotton-padded jacket, and the gun in his other hand was still firing additional shots. He used the cotton-padded jacket as a silencer, saving me and not attracting other zombies at the same time. "Are you hurt?" he asked me with a pale face, and his hands were shaking, showing a panic that I had never seen before. I shook my head with lingering fear. Charlie and Easton also came in from outside at this time. Easton exclaimed when he saw the zombie on the ground, "Damn, there really are zombies. Bo, you're quite capable. I thought you were trying to be lazy and not work and ran away just now." "Eileen, is your arm hurt?" Charlie asked with a serious expression. "I'm not hurt. Only the sleeve was torn. My skin isn't broken." As I said this, I rolled up my sleeve to show him, but the 3 of them instinctively took a step back. I could understand their concern, so I stopped and rolled up my sleeve. "There was no wound at all. And your neck?" "I saw the zombie choking your neck," Piper said. I took off my coat again and let them check my neck, but Charlie was still very cautious. "For the safety of everyone, I suggest we observe for half an hour. Let's go to the car first." They went out, but Bo sat down at the door and calmly loaded the bullets. I knew that he was waiting to personally deal with me if I turned into a zombie. "You go to the car too. If I'm infected, I'll take care of myself." I didn't want to turn into a zombie and eat people. Moreover, I was reborn. Maybe after death, there would be a new round of reincarnation. Bo clicked to open the safety catch and looked at me. "I only believe what I see with my own eyes." I instinctively covered my forehead. I knew he wasn't scaring me. He would really kill me. I sat down on the chair. This was the first time in these 2 lives that I had been so close to a zombie, and I wasn't very confident in myself either. It was terribly quiet around. Fortunately, there was the sound of Bo handling the gun, and I actually felt a trace of peace of mind. I thought that if I didn't turn into a zombie later, I would find a time to tell him that I was also reborn. And then live honestly in this doomsday world. Half an hour later, I was still fine, and everyone was happy for me. We lit a fire and cooked instant noodles. After eating, our frozen bodies finally felt a bit warmer, but Bo fell asleep as soon as he was sure that I wasn't infected. We were very careful not to wake him up. When keeping watch, Charlie whispered to me, "Your family is a military family, right?" I knew he was referring to Bo's family, so I nodded. His grandfather and father are both in the military. If it weren't for this virus, he would have been too. Sure enough, I guess right. He is mature, careful, and meticulous. Although he is the same age as my sister, his psychological quality is stronger than ours. And, he hesitated. And what? Charlie smiled a bit sheepishly. I can't explain it either. I feel like he knows me and doesn't like me. But I'm sure I haven't met him before. I admired Charlie's intuition. Although he wasn't reborn, he had judged it correctly. In the second half of the night, Piper and Easton relieved us so that we could go and rest. Yawning, I walked over to the campfire. Bo was wrapped in a quilt and shivering constantly. I called him twice, but he didn't respond. Feeling a little uneasy, I reached out and touched his forehead. It was scaldingly hot, giving me a fright. He had a high fever. For a moment, I thought that I could take this opportunity to get rid of him. But after sighing, I still fetched some antipyretics and fed them to him. He opened his eyes and looked at me, calling my name directly, Eileen. This was the normal way he got along with me on ordinary days, and those previous calls of sister were his blatant and deliberate actions. "How are you feeling?" I asked him. "I'm okay." He tried hard to sit up but fell back down again. It seemed that the high fever had sapped his strength. Charlie gave his quilt to Bo, but Bo didn't hide his disgust and directly threw the quilt aside. This was the real him now, willful and arbitrary, losing his temper whenever he wanted and not caring about anyone, unlike during the day when he always hid his thoughts and emotions. In the end, I gave him my quilt, and he fell asleep again, drowsy. Illness comes on suddenly like a mountain collapsing, but goes away slowly like drawing silk. Bo had this cold for a full week, and the heavy snow fell for a whole week as well. However, we didn't idle around either. Since the previous arrows hadn't been retrieved, we made a new batch using the branches around the gas station. Bo made a simple silencer for the gun and tested it. The effect was quite good. Halfway through, a small local dog somehow ran over and collapsed from hunger at the door. Charlie was afraid that it might carry the virus and wanted to kill it, but Bo picked it up and held it in his arms. He peeled a ham sausage and fed it to the dog, saying, "It's mine now. If you want to kill it, ask me first, Bo. This is an extraordinary period. We can't leave any potential safety hazards." Charlie tried to take the dog away. Bo's eyes turned cold, and he picked up the gun, seeing Charlie being treated like this. Easton, with his hot temper, came over wanting to teach Bo a lesson. I quickly tried to persuade them. This virus doesn't infect animals. Haven't you noticed that all the animals have been normal along the way? Moreover, if it's infected, it will mutate in 10 minutes. How about we wait and see before making a decision? The tension between the two sides eased for the moment. 10 minutes later, the little dog was still lively and energetic. So Charlie and Easton didn't argue further. 16. We originally wanted to stay for a while longer and leave when spring came, but because we hadn't eaten any vegetables or fruits for almost 2 months, each of us had different degrees of oral ulcers and skin problems. Although it wasn't a serious illness, it tormented us and made us suffer a lot, so we still set off. But this time, instead of continuing to Weiss City, we went to a nearby village. There were no living people in this village. We dealt with the surrounding zombies and found a house with a vegetable garden to live in. The green vegetables under the snow were lush and green. We picked the vegetables, killed the free-range chickens and ducks, stewed a large pot, and had several delicious meals. It was difficult to travel on the road in the snow, so we decided to stay for a while. Charlie got up earliest every day to light the fire, cook, and do the cleaning. He took care of us like this in the previous life too. I wasn't used to being a young lady who just opened her mouth to be fed, so I got up at the same time as him every day to help. When cutting the vegetables, I accidentally knocked over the vegetables. Charlie helped pick up the vegetable leaves while saying gently, "Let me do it. If you really want to help me, just praise me a few more times when we have the meal later." He always had the ability to resolve embarrassment in such a way that made people feel as if they were bathed in a spring breeze. Just as we were cleaning up together, the sudden sound of a bowl breaking came. I was startled. I turned my head and saw that at some point, Bo was standing at the door, with a half smile. Sorry, I didn't see the bowl here. He was obviously doing it on purpose. This kind of thing happened frequently since the day I moved into his house. I was already used to it. He just didn't want me to have an easy time. I was too lazy to pay attention to him. Charlie thought it was just the rebellious period of a boy and that he would be better when he grew up. 2 days later, we were surrounded by zombies, which were attracted by several survivors who were fleeing here, but in the end, they were still infected. Bo led us to climb onto the roof. We all used guns, but except for me and him, Charlie, Piper, and Easton hadn't used them much. The recoil prevented them from accurately hitting the heads of the zombies. In the end, they switched to bows and arrows, but there were 70 or 80 zombies, and the number of arrows was limited. After killing 20 or 30 zombies, there was nothing more we could do. In the end, only me and Bo were left. His marksmanship was very good. He used the rifle like a sniper rifle, and one bullet could take the life of one zombie. In the end, he eliminated all the zombies. Bo, "You're so amazing." Piper looked at him in admiration and said. Charlie also praised him. "If everyone in the rescue team was as excellent as you, we should be able to control the zombies soon." But Bo didn't appreciate it. "Every one of them is better than me, but not everyone can encounter such an open area and so few zombies." What he said made sense. It was easier to eliminate zombies in the countryside where there were fewer people and more land. The difficult part was to eliminate those zombies in the densely packed buildings in the city. Charlie wanted to stay in the countryside for a long time. We could grow our own food and vegetables, raise chickens and ducks, and maybe even find pigs, cows, and sheep. Although I also really wanted to go to Ice City, Charlie's suggestion was the most practical and sustainable. However, Bo didn't agree. He insisted on going to Ice City. In the end, Charlie proposed a vote to decide. The three of them raised their hands, and I also raised my hand, but Bo pressed it down. He said in a tough tone, "We're going to Ice City." "You said so." I explained. "It's too far away. There will be many uncertain factors on the way." He was very persistent. "You said you wanted to go." Charlie also tried to persuade him. "Currently, the most important thing for us is to survive. Here, we can." He didn't finish his sentence and stopped because Bo pressed the gun against his head. We all didn't dare to move. "Let's go." Bo directly pulled me into the car. The muzzle of the gun was still pointing at Charlie, and the little black dog also dashed over and jumped into the car. He finally revealed his true colors. I just didn't understand why he had to drag me along. 17. Bo put the gun beside the gear shift, within my reach, but I didn't act rashly. He was more skillful with the gun than I was, and I wasn't sure I could kill him. Charlie and the others didn't follow us out. Even after the car had driven a long way, Charlie didn't show up. Why? Didn't we agree to advance and retreat together? Bo saw through my thoughts. "Stop looking. He's only interested in what's beneficial to him. You're of no value to him now." I didn't believe him. "Of course he doesn't dare because you have a gun. Besides, what's between you and me is a family matter, and he's not in a position to interfere." "Family matter?" He gave a soft laugh. "Your mother and my father are both dead. What kind of family are you and I? Since that's the case, why do you have to drag me along?" He replied leisurely. "I feel like it." I knew I couldn't get an answer, so I carefully recalled the previous life, trying to find some clues. I met him a year and a half after the start of the Doomsday. At that time, there were more and more zombies where our team was located. Now that I think about it, it was the initial stage of the formation of the tide of zombies. With so many zombies, it was very difficult for us to find supplies. Coupled with the fact that it hadn't rained for a long time, we had to go to the shelter, where we met Bo. At that time, he didn't make our relationship clear. Because of his hatred, he naturally wouldn't take special care of me. Moreover, a person named Frank beside him had made advances towards me and even sneaked into my room in the dark. In the end, I couldn't bear it anymore and left the shelter. Later, the tide of zombies came, and I died in it. After thinking it over and over again, I still couldn't find a reasonable answer. 18. The car drove for another 3 days and reached a place called Yuntong. Bo stopped at a crossroads. I thought he was tired from driving and wanted to take a rest, but he actually stopped for a whole day. I asked him why we weren't leaving, and he said he had something to deal with. I felt that he was waiting for someone. He had quite a few friends in the previous life who were not very good people. Maybe he was waiting for them. Bo was making a snowman by the roadside, and the little black dog was bouncing around. Whenever there was a slight movement around, it would stop and stand with its ears pricked up vigilantly. Fortunately, in the end, there were no real dangers, and no zombies appeared. I unconsciously fell asleep in the car, vaguely I felt someone come to my side and cover me with a piece of clothing. I instinctively opened my eyes and met Beau's amber eyes. His eyes were clean and clear, and I could clearly see myself in them. Perhaps my sudden awakening caught him off guard. His eyes dodged slightly, but the next second, they returned to normal. Don't catch a cold and drag me down by falling asleep. The coat on me still carried his body temperature. The sunlight outside the car window shone on the snow, creating a special warmth and tranquility. The finished snowman stood by the roadside with a smile. A red plastic bag was tied around its neck, adding a touch of brightness to the world. A small truck drove over from a distance. The truck had been reinforced. There was a sharp shovel installed at the front, and an iron net was welded on the body. Judging from the depth of the snow tracks, the carriage was filled with a whole load of supplies. I recognized the truck driver at a glance. It was Frank, the guy who had almost bullied me. Beau had actually been waiting for this scoundrel. My first reaction was to go to the trunk to get a grenade and die together with the two of them. Beau got out of the car and walked forward, showing an innocent smile. "Brother, our car is broken. Can you help us take a look?" Frank was very vigilant and didn't stop the car, but after passing by our car and seeing me, he backed up the car and got out with a broad smile on his face. "What's wrong with your car?" Beau, however, turned sideways and said to me, "Close your eyes." Before I could react, I saw him suddenly pull out the gun and shoot Frank in the calf. Frank let out a scream and fell to his knees. Realizing that Beau had ill intentions, he dragged his broken leg and desperately tried to run towards the small truck, but Beau shot him in the other leg. "Brother, no, I mean, big brother, I'll give you whatever you want. I have food and women in the car, don't kill me," Frank pleaded. Beau then pressed the gun against Frank's forehead. In Frank's eyes filled with fear, he fired the third shot. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. This was his right-hand man. He had been waiting here for a whole day and night, and it turned out that he was waiting to kill him. He walked towards the cargo compartment, opened the door, took a look, and then shot and blew up the fuel tank. The truck burst into flames. In the raging fire, two girls with their hands tied lay there stiffly. They seemed to have been dead for a long time. They were covered with cotton-padded jackets. Under the jackets were thin clothes. There were countless scars on their bodies, and there were bloodstains winding down their legs. They must have been violated and abused before they died. This was the dark side of the doomsday, when law and morality disappeared, in the face of the powerful. The weak were even worse off than pigs and dogs. "You are waiting here just to kill him?" I asked him tremblingly. "Yeah," he replied calmly, as if the person he had just killed was just an ant. "Why?" He wiped the blood splattered on his face, leaving a faint red mark, looking like a stunning Azura who thirsted for blood. "Don't ask so many questions, just follow me obediently and do as I say, otherwise, I'll kill you too." It couldn't be that he killed Frank just to avenge me. It was very likely that they had a falling out in the previous life, so in this life, he took the initiative to eliminate the threat. In the end, I lost the courage to tell him that I was also reborn. Since he no longer regarded me as a family member, he could treat me the same way Frank treated those two girls at any time. 19. I escaped. When we were resting at a gas station again, I secretly opened the car door. The little black dog tilted its head and stared at me blankly. I told it not to bark, and it really sat down obediently. The advantage of not telling Beau that I was reborn was that he didn't know that I had learned how to drive and that my driving skills were actually quite good. He thought that I couldn't take a single step without him and that I had no way to deal with the zombies outside, so he relaxed his control over me. I didn't hurt him either, although I had pointed the gun at him. In the end, I still couldn't bring myself to pull the trigger, after all. In these two lives, he hadn't actually hurt me. I drove forward rapidly in the wind and snow. I didn't go to Ice City, nor did I go back to find Charlie and the others. I was afraid of bringing them unnecessary disasters. I planned to look for the so-called safe zone. In the previous life, I heard that the government had established several safe zones relying on universities, gymnasiums, and military regions. These safe zones had armed forces, medical facilities, and supplies, and they protected a lot of people. Although it had only been a little over a month since the start of the doomsday and the safe zones hadn't started to be established yet, I thought that if I went there and waited, there might be a new chance of survival. As for the tide of zombies that would leave no one alive wherever it went in the future, I would just take one step at a time. Without a map, I just walked according to my feelings. When the car ran out of gas, I smashed the cars that had broken down by the roadside and siphoned out the fuel. When I encountered zombies, I ran. If I couldn't outrun them, I would hide and try to live quietly and cautiously. I walked like this for almost 3 or 4 months and finally found an agricultural university. Moreover, there were dozens of surviving students and teachers here. I settled down here. I helped them reinforce the greenhouse together. When the peach blossoms bloomed, we started planting rice and vegetables. We worked in the greenhouse every day. It was tiring, but I felt fulfilled and satisfied. I finally slept more soundly here. However, I would occasionally dream of Bo. I dreamed that in the flickering firelight, I kissed him with tears in my eyes. I could even hear his heartbeat and the taste of blood in our mouths. It seemed to be a sweet yet despairing kiss. Finally, I heard him whisper in my ear, "Eileen, in the next life, you must remember me." When I woke up, I slapped myself twice for this immoral and ridiculous dream. 20. In the blink of an eye, it was July. Instead of the people coming to build the safe zone, a group of people came to our supplies. Among this group of people, I saw Charlie. He was running around serving a man with triangular eyes, but Easton and Piper were nowhere to be seen. Charlie also saw me. He was stunned for a moment and then, as if nothing had happened, he started chatting and laughing with the people around him. They forced their way in and wantonly wasted our food. In the end, they even pulled out all the girls here for their amusement. The elderly teacher sternly tried to stop them but was beaten to death with a shovel. A student rushed up to save the teacher but was also silenced with a knife to the throat. I stared at Charlie in shock. He was actually mingling with such people. I remembered what Bo had said, that he only cared about interests, but I didn't believe it at that time. The man with triangular eyes picked me, and my gun and knife were on the bed. "Come to my bed. I have very soft quilts and the smell of flowers there," I said softly. The man with triangular eyes laughed loudly and picked me up. I stared straight at Charlie, but he turned his head away. I reached for the gun under the pillow and shot at the man. But he had been prepared. Charlie was right. "You really do have some skills." The man took away my gun. "He told you that?" I didn't expect Charlie to go that far. Clearly, he was so kind in the previous life. The man with triangular eyes said, "As soon as we came in, we saw you two exchanging glances. I asked him a question, and he told me everything. He also said that you have a younger brother who is very good with a gun." "Where is he? Let's see who's better with a gun." I felt so disgusted that I wanted to vomit. "I need the man hard in the groin," he howled in pain, and I took the opportunity to get up and run behind the greenhouse. There was an iron gate in the wall there. As long as I opened the door, the zombies would come in. If we were destined to die, then let's go to hell together. The man pointed his gun at me. However, a fierce dog's bark came, and the man with triangular eyes let out a scream. I turned around and saw a black dog biting hard on his wrist. The next second, his head exploded in front of my eyes. Bo appeared in black clothes, holding a gun and shooting continuously. Where the bullets passed, blood flowers burst. Those people of the man with triangular eyes fell to the ground before they could even react. The students were so scared that they hid everywhere. After running out of bullets, he switched to a knife. His figure was agile, and he had a great advantage in close combat. The grown-up little black dog was his strongest assistant, and together they reaped lives like the god of death. In the previous life, the last time I saw such a scene of killing was when Vaughn did it for an eyeball of the little girl next door. When everything calmed down, there was a river of blood on the ground. Bo was covered in blood, and it was hard to tell if it was his or someone else's. We looked at each other from a distance. Although we had only been apart for half a year or so, I felt as if he had never left me. A knife was pressed against my neck. It was the person I once trusted the most among my teammates, the person I once had feelings for. Charlie threatened Bo, "Take your dog and get out, and I'll let her go." Bo casually sat on a chair beside him, playing with the knife in his hand. "Whether you let her go or not, what does it have to do with me?" I knew this action of his. It meant he was ready to make a move. He was like this when he first taught me how to use a knife. Charlie laughed sinisterly, and the pressure on his hand increased a bit. "If it really has nothing to do with you, why did you show up here?" I felt warm blood flowing down my neck, so I deliberately tried to distract him. "Where are Piper and Easton?" Sure enough, his body trembled a bit. "Dead." "How did they die?" He suddenly flew into a rage. "They just fucking died like that." Who told them not to be obedient? It was just this moment of excitement that there was a knife between his eyebrows. Bo had made his move. Charlie opened his eyes wide and looked at us, seemingly unable to believe that he was going to die like this. His last glance was towards outside the greenhouse, as if he was looking for something. His eyes were still open when he finally took his last breath. 21. Because too many people had died. The smell of blood attracted the surrounding zombies to gather here, facing the dark mass of zombies. The students' eyes were filled with fear and despair. I walked up to them and pointed at the corpses on the ground. "You've already experienced the most terrifying thing. Are you still afraid of those walking corpses?" The students gradually came to their senses. They picked up the shovels, spades, and knives on the ground one after another. Some were on guard, and some were reinforcing the wall. As long as the wall didn't fall, we could still hold on. Bo was still sitting on the chair, his face pale. There was already a pool of blood under the chair. The big black dog whimpered beside him, and its eyes were full of worry. No matter how powerful he was just a mortal with flesh and blood. I examined his injuries. The main injuries were on his arms, chest, and back. Each cut was deep enough to see the bone. I immediately bandaged him to stop the bleeding. But even if the bleeding was stopped, in the hot weather, if he got infected, it would cost him his life. Don't worry, I won't die. Even if I do, he hesitated. Even if you die, you might be reborn, right? I took over his words. He was stunned for a moment, and his eyes scanned my face. He was a bit unsure. You remember, I nodded. I'm reborn too. I'm sorry for hiding it from you for so long. I was just afraid that you would take revenge on me, so I kept it a secret. He was puzzled. Revenge, yeah. After all, our relationship has never been very good. Aren't you filled with hatred for me? Filled with hatred, he murmured and then said, do you only remember one life? This time it was my turn to be surprised. Are there really several lives? Before he could answer, the sound of the wall collapsing came from outside. All the students ran in. But how long could this greenhouse made of glass hold up? Unless there was a miracle, we would all die here. I didn't know if there would be a second rebirth. If there was, I would definitely not hide it anymore. I would live well with Bo. Compared to our nervousness and worry, Bo's eyes became determined. He shouted loudly, those who can drive, raise your hands. Immediately, 7 or 8 classmates raised their hands. Okay. You are now the team leaders. Take the car keys and weapons. Each of you leads 4 team members to get in the car. We're going to charge out. I knew that the cars of Charlie and his gang were outside, but now this place was surrounded by zombies, and it was simply impossible to get in the cars safely. Bo tore off several clothes soaked in blood from the corpses, then he let the big black dog bite the blood-stained clothes in its mouth and pointed in the direction of the door. The big black dog immediately understood his intention. It rushed out with the blood-stained clothes in its mouth. The zombies were immediately attracted by the blood and followed it in the opposite direction of where the cars were parked. Taking this opportunity, we immediately ran towards the cars. After getting in the cars, Bo led the way in the front, and the other cars followed closely behind. But there were too many zombies in the city, even though we escaped from the school. We were just living a little longer. The zombies surrounded us from all directions, and the encirclement was shrinking. It was almost impossible for us to break through. It turned out that even if we tried our best, a miracle might not happen. We were finally blocked by the zombies, and the car was forced to stop. The faces of the zombies were pressed against the car windows, looking ferocious and terrifying. I knew we shouldn't have escaped just now. We could have said a proper goodbye. I said with some regret that I was going to die in a sorry state again in this life. Bo looked at me, but every extra second of life is an extra second of happiness. At this moment, there was no longer any violence or killing in his eyes. Somewhere along the way, tenderness and innocence had quietly crept in. It was just like the first time we met when he was 14 years old. He didn't know that I was going to be his sister. When he took the flowers I brought, he had the same expression. Bo, let's get along well in the next life, I said sincerely. How exactly do you want us to get along well? He smiled. There was no color left on his face, and the bandage was already soaked in blood. A feeling of sadness wound around my heart, hurting more than I had imagined. I won't hide from you anymore. I won't not trust you anymore. Let's live well together, okay? But I have one more request. Tell me. As long as I can do it. But he played coy and pointed ahead. I'll tell you later. I looked in the direction he pointed and saw more than a dozen heavy-duty construction vehicles appearing like gods. The vehicles were 14 or 15 meters high, and one wheel was nearly 2 stories high. There were fully armed rescue workers standing on them. Wherever they passed, the zombies were crushed into a pulp. The construction vehicle team rolled over all the way and stopped beside our cars. They lowered the baskets and rescued us one by one through the sunroof. When Bo and I climbed into the basket, as we slowly rose, and when I looked down at the ground beneath my feet, I, who had already been prepared to face death, burst into tears at this moment. The zombies stretched out their hands towards us with their heads raised. After all, we had escaped from the evil clutches of this hell. 22. Bo was sent to the medical vehicle for isolation and treatment. The rest of us were also isolated separately and were only allowed to move around after it was confirmed that we were not infected. I thought the rescue team was here to establish a safe zone at the agricultural university. However, they said that they were just passing by the nearby area when they were blocked by a big black dog leading a group of dogs. Originally, they were going to drive straight through, but unexpectedly, the big black dog refused to run away and would rather be crushed to death than move aside. This delay allowed them to just see us driving over. That black dog must be the big black dog. At that time, Bo saved it, and now it was repaying him with its life. Where's that dog? I asked anxiously. The person from the rescue team pointed at the medical vehicle. It's in that vehicle and refuses to leave no matter what. I felt relieved. That act of kindness at the beginning had exchanged for our chance of survival today. Perhaps everything had been destined long ago. The motorcade continued to move forward. This motorcade was heading towards Vice City. The rescue team said that the whole city there would be built into a safe zone, and humanity would launch a full-scale counterattack there. I didn't see Bo until the evening of the next day. He was standing by the baffle, and the wind was blowing his hair. The setting sun in the sky dyed half of the sky red. I walked up to him and looked at this magnificent natural scene together. Tell me about the previous rebirths. He turned around, leaned against the railing, raised his head, and closed his eyes. He acted like a rascal. I don't remember anymore. I wanted to ask again, but he smiled brightly. Eileen, we're fine now. It's good now. There's no need to recall the past. And there's no need to wait for the future. I didn't ask any further. I believed that one day, when he had sorted everything out, he would tell me. When the clouds that had dyed half of the sky red faded in color and the starry river filled the deep night sky, everything returned to peace. When the sun rose again in the east, I could already see the rolling mountains in the distance, lying there like a giant dragon, guarding its world. Bo's side story. I'm 17 years old. I've lived 7 times in this world. I never thought that I would have such a deep bond with Eileen, the first life. On the day the doomsday came, Eileen and I separated at the amusement park. I thought she had died at the beginning of the doomsday. I thought I would be happy, but for some reason, I wasn't. I even dreamed of her. I dreamed of the first time I saw her. She was holding a bunch of ranunculus flowers, and she was as gentle as a flower. It was a long time after the doomsday that I realized I didn't hate her and her mother. I hated myself, hated my powerlessness in the relationship between my parents. Just when I thought we would never meet again, she suddenly appeared. At that time, she was very strong. She was good at shooting arrows and was also good with a gun. She also had 3 excellent teammates, someone even our boss wanted to win over, and I, with a broken leg, was doing the dirtiest and most tiring work in the team. At that time, I was unbalanced. Why was she always favored by fate? While I was always played by fate, the hatred in my heart that had originally subsided welled up again, so I avoided seeing her, and she seemed not to know of my existence. Later, some food, medicine, and clean clothes often appeared on my bed. I knew it was her secretly giving them to me, but at that time, I just thought she was humiliating me. I threw away the things she gave me and told her not to appear in front of me. But hurting someone's sincere heart will bring retribution. And my retribution came quickly. I offended someone in the team and was beaten almost to death. When she came back from searching for supplies, I was being pressed into the dirty mud. She was a medical student and had a cleanliness obsession, but at that moment, she held me in her arms regardless of everything. She fought back against those who had bullied me. She said, "No one can bully my little brother, Eileen's little brother." That night, she drove and took me away from the shelter. She said she knew where there was a hospital and that she could take me there to get treated. I thought she was so stupid. There were so many zombies outside, and she would be eaten if she took me with her. That night was so long, and the snow was so heavy. Finally, when the car couldn't move anymore, she carried me on her back, leaving long footprints in the snow. She said, "You always don't eat properly, that's why you're so light." I wanted to talk to her, but I couldn't make a sound. She kept scolding me for all my faults, and strings of tears fell from her face and dropped on the back of my hand. Finally, she stopped and lay on me, crying bitterly. I thought that maybe I had already died at that time. Although my breath had stopped, I could still hear sounds. That was the first time I saw her so emotionally broken, as if she had lost the most precious thing. Finally, I heard the sound of zombies and also a gunshot. The second life. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back before the doomsday. I ran towards the amusement park desperately, but because I was outside the amusement park, I didn't know her exact location. I called her while looking for her figure. Finally, the phone was connected, and she told me the location, but at this time, the virus had already started to spread, and I still didn't meet her immediately. I continued to call her, but fate played a joke on me. My phone was knocked out of my hand and broken by someone running for their life. I lost contact with her, but I knew she would definitely survive. I would wait for her at the place where we met in the previous life. So, I survived according to the route of the previous life. In this life, I no longer lived a sharp life. I learned to be tactful and sophisticated and to hide my emotions. This time, I kept my leg and also had a position in the team. A year and a half later, they finally came. But she didn't remember what had happened in the previous life at all, but it didn't matter. We were still alive, and as long as we were alive, there were infinite possibilities. But one day, she suddenly told me that she liked Charlie. She said I was her little brother, so she wanted to get my blessing. At that moment, I realized that I didn't want to be her little brother at all. But I still blessed her because she was very happy that day, and her eyes were full of anticipation. Later, She still didn't become a couple with Charlie. When they went out to search for supplies once, they encountered another powerful force. In order to survive, Charlie offered her to the other side. When I arrived, she had already been killed for resisting. I killed Charlie and then let the zombies into the shelter. I held Eileen's body in my arms, thinking that everything was over. Unexpectedly, this was just the beginning of another life. The third life, after being reborn. I stole a motorcycle and directly went to the location she mentioned in the previous life. In this life, I was lucky. I found her before the virus outbreak, but she still remembered nothing. We went to a nearby restaurant to hide. I told her that I was reborn, but she didn't believe me and thought I had lost my wits due to the zombies. Later, Charlie and the others came, and I then knew that it was she who saved them. Her ambition was to be a doctor, and saving people was her belief. However, she didn't know that such kindness would cost her life. I wouldn't let Charlie hurt her again, so I killed Charlie, but I didn't expect that she saw this scene. She endured and continued to live with me. On the day when we left because our supplies were used up, she secretly chose another path with Piper and Easton, and finally they were surrounded by zombies. The direction of fate allows no deviation, otherwise the result will be completely different. I rescued her regardless of everything. But both of us were injured by the zombies. At the last moment when my consciousness faded, she said to me, "Bo, be a good person in the next life." She thought that I killed Charlie because of the deep hatred in my heart and that I was acting recklessly without the restraint of the law. I originally thought I had done the right thing, but the result was that this life ended prematurely. The fourth life, in this life, she still didn't remember what had happened before. I didn't kill Charlie again. Once bitten by a snake, one is scared of a well rope for 10 years. I was afraid of ruining this life. With the survival experience of the previous 3 lives, I took the 4 of them to look for the legendary safe zone. Along the way, we managed to get through without major disasters. I thought we could live for a very long time in this life, but unexpectedly, it was finally ended by Piper. I don't know why Piper liked me, nor do I know how she saw that I had different feelings for Eileen. Piper confessed to me. She said that we were born on the same day, month, and year and had survived together in the doomsday, and that we were a natural couple. I rejected her. She wasn't angry and just said, "I know you like your sister, but guess, if she knew your thoughts, would she think you're disgusting?" I told her that both my parents and Eileen's parents were dead, and we had no blood relationship or legal kinship. "But does your sister think so?" she threatened me. I gripped her neck tightly and said, "Do you believe that I will kill you?" She got scared, cried, and begged me to spare her, saying that she would never dare again. I regretted being soft-hearted at that time. I should have killed her then. I also knew that what Piper said was right. I didn't dare to take the risk, so I found an excuse to leave with Eileen alone. The world is vast, and there must be a place for us to stay. That period of time was the happiest for me. Although we lived in fear every day, we were together at all times, protecting each other. But fate never likes it when someone breaks away from its control. Half a year later, we met Piper and the others again. By then, they had joined the team of Quentin with triangular eyes. And Piper had also been given to Quentin by Charlie. In order to take revenge on me, Piper deliberately made Quentin interested in Eileen, but she underestimated me. I killed Quentin and took his place, but Piper escaped first. She brought in the zombies. This was a move to die together. She was right. I was the same kind of person as her. Our ways of taking revenge were the same. When the zombies came, Eileen came to save me regardless of everything, and I also ran towards her with all my might. But just as I was about to hold her hand, Piper shot at us. The bullet penetrated my heart and then entered Eileen's chest. The fifth life, after being reborn, I didn't look for Eileen again because I was her misfortune. She could live well without me, and she would only die prematurely if she was with me. I went to kill Quentin in advance, thus removing a hidden danger. I established a shelter. I didn't hesitate to kill those who didn't obey me. I had absolute control over everything here. Only in this way could I ensure that no one would hurt her when we met again. Then, we really met again. I kept a distance from her and didn't let her get close. I made her think that I was still the younger brother who had a bad relationship with her before. I only hoped that she could live a little longer in this life, even longer. This time I finally succeeded. We lived longer than in the previous lives. But she was so dazzling, even though she lived a low-key and cautious life. She still caught the attention of Frank beside me. She might have thought that I had instructed it. She wanted to leave with Charlie and the others, but Charlie was content to stay in his corner and didn't want to leave. In the end, she left quietly by herself. I followed her without disturbing her. Although she still didn't have the memories of the previous lives, she could live skillfully in the doomsday. It's a pity that finally, the tide of zombies came. No one could fight against this huge tide of zombies, and we ended this life again. I just didn't expect that in this life. She remembered, but she only recalled it in the seventh life, the sixth life, In this life, I learned from the lessons of the previous 5 lives. I understood that whether I was with her or not, and no matter how much preparation I made in advance, there were always unknown and sudden things waiting for us ahead. The power of one person is small. And the power of a group of people is not enough either. We need advanced weapons and the protection of nature. Finally, I chose to meet Eileen again at the beginning of the doomsday. I didn't kill Charlie and Piper because the path I was going to take next was completely unfamiliar, and I needed their strength. I treated Eileen distantly so that Piper couldn't find my weakness and avoid some unnecessary troubles. My destination was Vice City, where there are mountains surrounding it and the terrain is complex. The movement of zombies there will be greatly hindered, and it's difficult for a tide of zombies to form. We finally reached there smoothly. Eileen and I found the place where her aunt was on a business trip. I originally thought that her aunt had already turned into a zombie and was no longer there. Unexpectedly, she had tied herself in place. Eileen cried heartbreakingly. She said that her aunt tied herself like this because she was afraid that Eileen wouldn't be able to find her when she came, because in the last phone call, she said to her aunt, "Mom, we will definitely meet again." That day, we buried her aunt with our own hands. In the car on the way back, she said, "Bo, now there are only the 2 of us, brother and sister, left." She still regarded me as her younger brother. Once, a girl from their school secretly took a photo of him and posted it online, and the video received millions of likes. I said, "Eileen, I don't want to be your younger brother." After that day, she avoided me, and I also regretted my impulsiveness. I joined the rescue team. I calmed myself down by killing zombies and also strived for better living conditions for her. With the experience accumulated from the previous 5 lives, I quickly became a main member of the combat team. She became a doctor, and I often protected the medical team she was in. Our interactions became more and more frequent, and even if she wanted to avoid me, she couldn't. Later, once when I was protecting the medical site, I got injured. She treated me and took care of me without sleep. What she couldn't do in the first life was achieved in this life, but she didn't remember. But after this time, her attitude towards me changed. She would take the initiative to show concern and would be panic-stricken when I lost contact during a mission on my 20th birthday. Everyone heckling me to make a wish, but before I could say it, zombies appeared at the medical site, and the virus spread too fast. The upper level ordered to block the medical site and clean it up. At the end of our lives, the fire burned around us. I kissed her again, and this time she didn't push me away. "Eileen, you must remember me in the next life." This was my 20th birthday wish. I was too lonely by myself. In each life, my lifespan was tormented by fate, and I was almost unable to hold on. The 7th life, Eileen finally had memories, although they were from the 4th life, and I didn't know that. Moreover, she ran away halfway. In this life, we were luckier than in the previous 6 lives. We stayed away from the place where the tide of zombies occurred. I still pretended to be distant to disguise myself, making Eileen think that I was still the same as before and preventing Piper from seeing through my thoughts. I killed Frank in advance, and also let Eileen see Charlie's true colors. All of Quentin's people were also dealt with by me. Finally, we escaped from death and met the rescue team. We settled down earlier than in any of the previous lives and were stronger than in any of them. And will she finally fall in love with me? When the morning sun rose, a layer of warm light was cast on her. "You promised me before that you would fulfill one of my requests. Does it still count now?" I asked her. She nodded readily and said, "Of course, a gentleman's word is as good as a team of 4 horses. Just tell me what your request is." I said, "I hope you will be by my side on every birthday of mine in the future. You are the most wonderful thing in my life, so wonderful that I didn't dare to let you know my thoughts. I could only wish that you would stay." She was stunned for a moment, and then she smiled gently, just like that snowy night when she smiled and told me not to be afraid and that she would always be by my side. "Okay, I promise you. By the way, your birthday is coming up soon. What's your wish?" My wish has already come true. Story 2. When the rain first started, nobody paid much attention to it. After a week, I observed that neighbors were still harmoniously helping each other. 3 months into the rain, I had witnessed the most terrifying aspects of humanity. By the 5th month, I thought I was the last survivor in the apartment, aside from myself. Then one midnight, rustling sounds came from outside the door. I remember this family had a dog, right? Yes, and they also grew vegetables. It was a girl living alone. They sounded desperately hungry. I turned my head and looked at the dog lying close beside me. Once again, I reluctantly picked up the kitchen knife. At 5 a.m., I was awakened by the pitter-patter of the rain. Huddled by the window, my dog, a German shepherd named Commander, saw I was awake and came over to nuzzle my hand. Seeing her eagerness, I rubbed my eyes and struggled to get up, then opened the door to the terrace. "Go ahead." At my command, Commander dashed out. The rain wasn't heavy, but for someone suffering from chronic nervous exhaustion like me, the sound was enough to qualify as white noise. I had rented this top-floor apartment with a terrace specifically for Commander. The 30 square meters of terrace space was more than enough for her to frolic. The fridge was nearly empty. I finished the last bottle of milk in one gulp, looking at Commander's dog food. Only a little remained. Time to shop again. As I dashed into the building with 4 hefty bags, I saw my ex-boyfriend, who suffered from chronic kidney weakness, helping a girl move her luggage, just like he had helped me 3 years ago. Couldn't he come up with something new? I lowered my hat brim, hoping to sneak past them unnoticed, but Michael still spotted me. Rose stocking up again. He knew I was a homebody, the type who could stay indoors forever as long as I had food. I uttered an ah, placed the bags by the elevator door, and pressed the button despairingly as I saw the elevator was still on the 29th floor. Michael's freight elevator was also waiting. He scurried over, buying so much. Can you manage? I shook off the rainwater from my coat onto him without even looking up. I might not be very strong, but I can still knock out a couple of your teeth. As I said this, I grabbed his chin and forced him to show his front teeth. These dentures look pretty real, just a bit too white though. I raised an eyebrow. Maybe you should get them all replaced. Michael, frightened, wriggled out of my grip and stepped back. I wondered where he got the courage to approach me. The girl was watching, so he had to feign composure. I saw you had so much stuff. Just thought I'd help. Really ungrateful. I couldn't be bothered with him, effortlessly lifting the 4 heavy bags and entering the elevator. Just before the elevator doors closed, I yelled, "Still got 2 bags of that kidney tonic at my place. Should I bring them over later?" I watched as Michael's face turned red, and he made a futile gesture as if to rush over. Please, just an act. He couldn't beat me. I leaned back in the elevator, smugly watching the doors close. Back home, Commander, who had played until she was tired, was lying on the mat at the terrace door, waiting for me to wipe her feet. Guess who I just ran into? At my words, Commander hummed and obediently stretched her paw towards me. I smiled. Right, it was that damn thing, she mused, then corrected herself. No, he's worse than a dog. The Commander's throat began to rumble with a purring sound. I knew he understood, even though he had been with Michael for over 2 years, when that man started hitting me. The Commander didn't hesitate to attack. He bit a large hole in Michael's calf. As I petted the dog, I glanced casually outside. The rain was still falling. In my life, I hate domestic abusers the most. When I was 15, after my mother was severely injured by my father, I used the evidence I had gathered over more than a year to successfully put my father in jail. But 3 years later, my mother still left me. So as I grew up, I trained relentlessly, fighting, sanda, boxing, judo, taekwondo, karate. I mastered them all. Michael became the first to face the consequences. When his slap landed on my face, I was stunned. I couldn't believe that the man who had been so attentive and caring for 2 years could hit me. Before he could strike a second time, my fist had already hit his face. Michael was stunned and spat out blood. I didn't give him a chance to react. I jumped on him and unleashed a flurry of punches and kicks. The Commander took the opportunity to bite his calf again, a week later. Michael, bandaged and limping, came to me. He spoke with difficulty. "Rose, you're looking at a lawsuit." I barely held back a laugh as I slapped a stack of documents across his face. "If I'm going down, you're coming with me." Seeing my calm demeanor, Michael panicked. His right arm was broken and in a sling, and he struggled to flip through the documents with his left hand. They were evidence of his company's tax evasion and bribery. His crimes were far greater than mine. It's only been 2 months. It seemed like Michael had forgotten all this and started to be all smiles with me again. Disgusting. I went to the terrace and opened the rainwater collecting barrel. It was already half full. It seems the rain had started quietly since last night. Just then, a voice called from nearby, "Rose, watering the plants." It was the grandma from across the hall. Our apartment building had 29 floors, with about a dozen units per floor. But only the units on the east side had terraces. Grandma and I had the east-facing units. Our terrace is only 3 or 4 meters apart. "Yes, Grandma, it's raining, so I'm watering the plants." "That's right, rainwater is best for the plants." After saying this, Grandma went back to her garden. She had turned her entire 30 square meters of terrace into a vegetable garden. Unlike me, I only had plants around the edges, to let the Commander play. I installed an aluminum rain shelter on the terrace, which not only sheltered from rain but also from the sun. The rain shelter had a water tank, and the water was supposed to go straight down the drain pipe, but to water my plants, I had redirected it into a 500L barrel. After a while, Grandma popped her head out again, holding 2 large purple eggplants. "Rose, look how well these big eggplants are growing. I'll leave them at your door later. Make sure to pick them up." "All right. Thanks, Grandma. Come inside. It's starting to pour." As we spoke, the rain intensified. Grandma waved her hand, hunched over with a bag of vegetables, and went back inside. Her patio was open to the sky, as Grandma believed that plants weren't so delicate and thrived best under the natural sunlight and rain. I returned home and turned on my cell phone. The hot news was still about the flooding disasters in the south, with villages swept away by the floods and people left homeless. As I scrolled down, a less noticeable news item caught my attention. Due to heavy rains, extensive agricultural fields in cities M, C, B, A, and others have been flooded, with farmers guarding their wheat fields waiting for rescue teams. A chill ran through me. The Northeast, has it started there too? This is not normal. City J, in the north, is a small city situated on high ground. Flooding is rare in the northeast, and people here do not fear heavy rain. Everyone tends to believe that the floods won't reach us. I thought the same. Despite wearing earplugs, I did not sleep well that night. The next morning, as usual, I groggily opened the door to the patio. Go ahead. This time, my dog Commander didn't rush out but hesitated, pacing on the spot. It was then that I fully opened my sleepy eyes and noticed that the patio had accumulated a layer of water. Looking to the left, I saw that the rainwater barrel was full and had overflowed. The drainage holes in the corner were also clogged with leaves and debris. It seemed the rain hadn't stopped all night. It's okay, no rush, I reassured Commander and stepped out in my slippers. After clearing the 2 drains, the water, which was less than 10 centimeters high, quickly drained away. The patio could at most accumulate 10 centimeters of water. Any more than that would just flow over the railing. Come on out, I waved to Commander, who eagerly dashed out to his little toilet. I then glanced at the neighboring patio. Grandma had already covered the vegetable garden with a plastic tarp, knowing that the rain wasn't stopping anytime soon. Without cover, the vegetables might rot. I leaned over the railing for a closer look. Fortunately, there was no water accumulated on the ground of the complex. It seemed that after 2 days of rain, the drainage system in City J was still holding up. But what if the rain doesn't stop? I went inside to find my phone and quickly searched for news from other countries. As expected, it was raining all over the world. I figured the World Meteorological Organization must be overwhelmed by now. Commander, do you think the rain will stop today? After doing his business, he ran back inside. Not playing outside but instead snuggling with me on the couch. Quite unusual. Hearing my question, Commander hummed softly and rested his head on my knee. He looked listless. They say animals have a sense of nature. My smart Commander seems to think the rain won't stop today. I need to stock up on more supplies, not just for myself but for my dog too. Although I had just been to the supermarket yesterday, I felt that what I bought wasn't enough. If the city's drainage system fails and the streets flood, we'll be without water and electricity within a week. In 15 to 30 days, there will be widespread food shortages. If the rain doesn't stop, I didn't dare to think further, and quickly logged onto an online store to order a 500-liter water storage barrel. Next, a cartridge stove, gas canisters, alcohol blocks, vacuum bags. I bought everything. Vacuum sealers, hand crank flashlights, dog food, dog treats, dog toys, compressed biscuits, instant noodles, powdered milk, and various canned goods. That's all I could think of for now, mainly because my bank account balance isn't looking too great. It was getting dark. After the 10 barrels of water I ordered were delivered, I decided to head out again. This time, I skipped the supermarket on the first floor of the apartment. Instead, I went to the largest shopping mall in J City. Since I have a vegetable garden at home, I didn't buy much food. I focused more on dog food, daily necessities, and things like sanitary pads. I pushed 2 fully loaded shopping carts to the cashier. Then, I took out 2 oversized burlap sacks I had brought. Time to check out. People around me stared as if they'd seen a ghost. I didn't care. With supplies at home, there's no need to panic. Dragging the 2 sacks, I found myself inexplicably stopping in front of a Decathlon store. I went in and then came out. No, I had 2 extra large backpacks on me. Coming out, I regretted it. My account only had 25,000 left, and I had just spent 10,000 on 2 inflatable rafts. Crazy. To avoid drawing attention, I deliberately used the elevator from the underground parking garage of the apartment building. Unfortunately, the elevator stopped on the first floor. Hey, it was my ex-boyfriend, again. I swear he must be camping out at the apartment entrance, waiting to help new single women move in. Michael was also stunned, mainly because I looked so bizarre right now. He glanced at the contents of my sacks. He exclaimed, "You bought so many sanitary pads. What happened? A flood?" I rolled my eyes. "Want one to stick over your mouth?" Michael pursed his lips, dropped his sneaky look, and seemed to be talking to someone. "When will this rain stop?" "Huh," I replied. "Yeah, be careful not to drown when you step out." On the 12th floor, Michael got off the elevator. On the 29th floor, I too got off, struggling with the sacks, almost crushed by the 2 packs. "Commander, open up." As soon as my voice sounded, the door to 2901 clicked open. A furry head peeked out. Good boy. After putting down the things and locking the door, I collapsed on the sofa, thinking about what else I might need. I just fell asleep. On the third day, it was still raining. The first thing I did when I woke up was check the weather forecast. For the next week, it would be light rain, heavy rain, light rain, heavy rain, heavy rain, heavy rain. The Meteorological Bureau had also issued a yellow warning for severe rain. Barefoot, I rushed to the balcony and peered over the railing. Commander got a fright and ran out onto the balcony, ignoring the puddles. Through the rain mist, my vision was blurry, but I could still tell that there was no dry spot left on the streets. The drainage couldn't keep up with the downpour. In the afternoon, the items I ordered online arrived. By the fourth day, the streets began to flood, and the number of people and cars started to decrease. On the fifth day, not just in J City, but a national red alert for torrential rain was issued. This meant that within a day, the water level would rise nearly a meter. On the sixth day, the streets became crowded again. People finally realized the crisis and began to venture out to stock up on supplies, undeterred by the knee-deep floodwaters. Frantically loading things into the car, the rainy night was chilly. So I closed the door to the balcony. I watched as the dog quietly ate his food, seemingly unaffected by the hustle and bustle outside. As if it didn't concern us, I had stockpiled enough dog food to last half a year. Surely the rain will stop by then. On the seventh day, I checked the residents' group chat. It presented a warm and harmonious scene. Does anyone have some rice they can sell me? I can spare half a bag for free. Just come to 701 to pick it up, huh? Thank you, much appreciated. I've made braised pork and shrimp in oil. Anyone who hasn't eaten, come down for some. Much love. Thank you, everyone. No need to panic. The rain will probably stop in another 3 days. The country won't let us starve. No need to risk going out to buy supplies. God bless. Let the rain stop soon. I quietly turned off my phone. A sense of unease lingered in my heart. 3 days later, the rain had not stopped. The first floor of the apartment was completely flooded. I heard that some people from the first floor left overnight, not knowing if they could find a safe place. The rest either sought help from those on higher floors or slept in the stairwells. If the rain continued, as the water rose, the residents on the lower floors would have to keep moving up. Then my 29th floor wouldn't be safe either, now. No one responded to requests for food in the group. At that moment, the supermarket owner on the first floor spoke up. Look, we're all neighbors here, and I still have a lot of food, but given the circumstances, I can't sell it at the usual prices. If you're interested in buying, message me privately. His message set the group ablaze. It seemed there were quite a few people short on supplies. I remembered that 3 nights ago, the supermarket had closed early, and the owner said he wouldn't sell anything. It appeared he had moved all the stock to his own place on the 15th floor. He was just waiting for this moment. No one was being generous anymore, and he could now sell his goods at a high price, as much as he wanted. He could even set up an auction, with the highest bidder winning, and then he could call it neighborly help. I put down my phone, turning away. I took out the last bag of sweet rice dumplings from the fridge. I knew that if the rain didn't stop soon, we'd lose power. By then, all the frozen food would go to waste. That's why I hadn't stockpiled much frozen food to begin with, and these past few days, I'd been eating from the freezer first. No, all that was left was this bag of dumplings, half a bag tonight, the other half tomorrow. Perfect. Just as I finished cooking the dumplings, the dog suddenly perked up his ears and trotted to the front door. Sure enough, the doorbell rang, holding the dumplings. I peered through the peephole to see my ex-boyfriend, who was still alive, standing outside, in the middle of the night. What do you want? Through the security chain, I spoke without much patience. He leaned in close, whispering as if he were a thief. Rose, I know you've stockpiled a lot of food. Can you sell me some? I've got dog food left. Want a bowl? I casually took a bite of my dumpling. Ouch, that's hot. Michael stared at my dumpling, clearly swallowing his saliva. I knew Michael had no food at home because he never cooked. He always relied on takeout or eating out. He had the money for it. But no, there were no restaurants open. Rose, stop joking. I'm serious, Michael pleaded. Come on, we were together for 2 years. Get lost. You can go to the 15th floor and buy from the supermarket owner. Darn, guess how much he's selling a box of instant noodles for? How much? I asked curiously. Lifting my head, Michael held up 2 fingers. 200. What? That really shocked me. After slurping up the last drop of soup, I burped at Michael. Well, you've got money anyway. Then I closed the door forcefully. I knew he would buy it. Michael just wanted to get food from me with the least amount of money. His dignity and face didn't matter to him. No, he had no dignity at all. I wonder how he had the nerve to knock on my door with such a bare-faced cheek. Through the peephole, I saw his face slowly lose the smile and turn sinister and terrifying. I had almost forgotten his usual playful demeanor. Michael was prone to violence. 5 days later, the power went out. It had been raining nonstop for the first 15 days. Looking at the no signal, no network icon on my phone, I suddenly felt a bit desperate. This day had really come, so fast it felt surreal. I remember the news from yesterday. They were still trying to rescue the capital and other places. It seems our small town was truly forgotten. Turning my head, I saw the commander playing with a ball on the terrace. I gathered my emotions and played with it for a while. Then, that familiar voice rang out again. "Rose, do you still have enough food?" Suddenly I felt like crying, and when I turned around, my eyes were involuntarily filled with tears. It was so good to hear my grandmother's voice again. "There's enough, Grandma. Let me know if you need anything. I'll bring it to you. I have more vegetables than you," Grandma said proudly as she pointed around her garden, then instructed, "But don't go out, it's chaotic in the building recently." I nodded vigorously. "Okay, Grandma, take care of yourself. The rain will stop." Grandma turned her back, waved her hand, and went inside. I think Grandma wasn't afraid. Though she was not tall and quite thin, she was an incredibly resilient person. I never asked her why she lived alone here, why she stayed on the top floor, why her children didn't visit her, actually. We hardly ever spoke. Grandma would just often leave a bag of vegetables at my door and ring the bell. By the time I went out to pick it up, she would have already gone back inside. Grandma was still here. The commander was still here. Suddenly, I wasn't so scared anymore. We weren't at the point of not being able to live, right, without the internet. The homeowners group finally quieted down. But the hallways were getting more chaotic. People had started knocking on doors, asking for food. Luckily, we were on the top floor, and without the elevator, no one wanted to expend the energy to climb up here. But I had forgotten one person. Day 20, when I saw Michael again, he had lost a lot of weight, his eyes deeply sunken, run out of money. I still spoke to him through the security chain. His voice was weak. "Damn it, the supermarket owner won't sell anymore after the power cut." He began fobbing us off with thawed frozen food. "How is that edible? It's all raw. How can we eat that now?" "He's completely stopped selling." I nodded in agreement. "True, he realized the rain won't stop, so he's keeping the food to save his own life." Michael kept peering through the door gap. "Rose, you still have food, right?" "I don't have much left either." "Come on, I saw you buying several bags the other day." I spread my hands helplessly. "It's been a week since the power outage. Many of the foods have gone bad," I lamented. I originally wanted to tease him by offering him more food. Even if I hated him, I couldn't just watch him starve to death right in front of me. But Michael started to panic. "Rose, you must have some food left. I know you grow your own vegetables," he insisted. "What was in those 2 sacks you had the other night? And one day, I saw you carrying parcels upstairs time after time. Were you buying food online?" Michael's voice grew more frantic, and he even began reaching his hand through the crack in the door. Eventually, his eyes bloodshot, he pointed at my dog. "The commander, at the very least, you still have your dog. With the size of the commander, he could last a week if rationed." Michael lost it. "Give me the commander, Rose." I can't believe what I'm hearing. My whole body shook uncontrollably. "Is this the man I've been with for 2 years? Commander growled softly beside me. My face darkened, and I looked emotionlessly at Michael. "Wait." I then turned and walked towards the kitchen, thinking I was getting him food. Michael's eyes glinted with greed, and he hastily shoved his hands further through the door gap. When I returned, I thrust a fruit knife straight through Michael's palm. His scream echoed through the building. I held the knife firmly, not pulling it out, leaving him no choice but to stare at me in horror. Then, I peeked through the door gap, my eyes fixed intensely on him. "Come up again, and I'll chop you up to feed the dog." My tone was ghostly. Michael was stunned. He knew I could do it. Nodding like a bobblehead, he trembled all over, seemingly forgetting the pain in his palm. Only when I slowly pulled out the knife did he start to wail. Michael left, holding Commander. I stared out at the rain, my expression shifting from blank to resolute. I knew every day ahead would be incredibly tough, not just because of the storm, but also because of the people downstairs, growing increasingly desperate. But I needed to survive with Commander. I went to the innermost storage room and began to inventory all the food. Previously, I had just piled everything up, thinking the rain would stop after a few days, but now, I needed to prepare as if it would never stop. Rice, flour, and the like were sealed in vacuum bags. Vegetables that were cooked but uneaten were also cleaned, dried, and vacuum sealed. I wasn't sure how long these bags would last, but this was my only way to keep things fresh. After the water cut off, the bottled water ran out even faster, leaving only 8 barrels. It seemed that besides drinking and cooking, I couldn't use the pure water anymore. With so much rain, boiling it for washing and cleaning was entirely feasible. I spent the afternoon busy, finally. I arranged the food according to its expiration date. Starting from the front, there was enough to last me a year, but Commander's dog food would only last 6 months. Together, we might barely make it 10 months, with the rain increasing by half a meter daily, rising 15 meters a month. In less than 6 months, the entire building would be submerged. By then, I couldn't afford to think that far ahead. To live one day was a victory. After tallying up the food, I began searching through every nook and cranny for weapons. Then, someone else came knocking, 2 men in their 40s, begging for food as soon as they spoke. It looked like Michael had spread the word about my supplies. No, I replied coldly. The man behind grew impatient. Why waste time talking? Just break in. As he spoke, both men began to ram the door. The so-called anti-theft chain was nothing more than a decoration. It was knocked off in an instant. I took 2 steps back and held the dagger horizontally across my chest, assuming a defensive stance. Well, the little girl has some training. The tall man, with a look of determination, came at me wielding a wooden stick. After a brief exchange, I reached a conclusion. He was a paper tiger, with the commander restraining another one. I had an easier time fighting. Soon, the tall man's body was covered with countless cuts. He probably didn't even realize it as he continued to swing his stick aimlessly, until his companion shouted, "Ryan, you're covered in blood." The man stopped, glanced over his body, and just collapsed to the ground. The cuts weren't large, but they were deep, every stab aimed at arteries, each one potentially fatal if not quickly stanched. At that moment, more people appeared at the door, 5 in total, both men and women. I quickly assessed the situation, wondering how I would handle it if they all attacked at once. Could I overpower them? Could I bring myself to deal lethal blows? By then, the blood-covered man had been dragged to the doorway by his companion, who was also in bad shape, having been bitten several times by the commander. The sight froze the group outside, ignoring the blood on my face. I held up the still dripping dagger with one hand and gripped the charging commander with the other, giving the newcomers a cold stare. "Can I help you?" Clearly intimidated by my appearance, the group at the door scattered. I shut the door, my legs gave out, and I knelt on the ground. The spots where the stick had hit me started to hurt. It was a relief. These people had just come to try their luck for food, not to rob violently, but I knew it was only because they were not desperate yet, and today was just the beginning for me. After cleaning up the blood inside, I continued to work on my self-defense weapons. A baseball bat, which I had adorned with nails of various lengths, had turned into a spiked club. I tested its weight in my hands. It felt good. Commander watched me, head tilted to one side. I gripped the spiked club in one hand and rubbed his head with the other. "Don't worry, I'll protect you." Day 30. The water had already risen above the 5th floor. I didn't know how many people were left in the building, only that fewer were coming to my door. Because each time they came, they left with injuries, empty-handed. Barely alive, Michael hadn't shown up. I wondered if he had starved to death, and I wasn't much better off. My body was covered in large bruises, and my face had been slashed, nearly disfiguring me. Commander's hind leg was injured by a blunt hit, leaving him limping, but none of that mattered, as long as the 2 of us were still alive. Now, the air was filled with the smell of sewage and decay. Each breath I took made me want to retch. The nights without electricity were especially quiet. Pitch black, unable to do anything, but tonight, there was movement in the hallway. The moment they reached the 29th floor, Commander sensed it. I quickly lit 2 candles and placed them up high. Then, another alcohol block was lit to boil water. Next, I stood guard cautiously at the door with the commander, waiting for their next move. Their footsteps were light, but there were many of them, looking through the peephole. All I saw was darkness. Why were they moving in the dark without any lights? Then, the footsteps stopped right at my door. Again, before I could think further, a loud bang sounded. I didn't give them a second chance to smash the door. I quickly opened it myself. Before they could react, I hurled a basin of boiling water at them. Amidst their screams, I had already grabbed my spiked club, illuminated by the candlelight. I swung mercilessly. Despite their numbers, the doorway was narrow. I stood at the entrance, knocking down anyone who approached. The commander helped me by sneaking in attacks from below. They were trespassing, weren't they? I was acting in self-defense, right? I had rehearsed this scenario countless times in my mind. In recent days, the sounds of doors being smashed, cries of pain, and calls for help echoed through the apartment from bottom to top. I couldn't save anyone. I could barely protect myself. I knew what humans could do when extremely hungry, and I was prepared for the day it would be my turn. Seeing their night vision goggles, I remembered that Michael's company developed these. Of course, behind the group, I saw the ferocious face of Michael. After I stabbed his palm that day, he had been plotting this moment, telling everyone I had food, rallying people. He laid low for many days, preparing to deliver a fatal blow. Poor Michael. You underestimated the vigilance of a woman who had lived alone for years. I slammed the club into the last man's leg, my eyes bloodshot as I fixed my gaze on Michael. I just watched him, then stepped on the thigh of the man on the ground. With a fierce pull, I yanked the spiked club out, splattering his face with blood. Michael trembled on the ground, his groin damp, his men were all down. Then he shakily pulled out a dagger, waving it aimlessly in front of his chest, muttering incoherently. I laughed. That pathetic knife was nothing compared to my club. With a backhand swing, his knife flew out of the window in a parabolic arc. Aren't you dead yet? I used the baseball bat to lift Michael's chin. Looking down on him, he seemed plumper than the last time I saw him. As Michael regained his senses, he started to kneel and beg for mercy. Rose, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I have food. I'll give it all to you. I won't come up here again. I won't bother you again, Rose. Before he could finish, I swung the bat down. He screamed like a pig being slaughtered. Hearing you call me Rose makes me want to vomit. After that, I pulled the spiked club out of his leg and used my shirt to wipe the blood off my face. At that moment, the door across the hall opened. Grandma looked at me, then at the chaos all around. She only said one thing, Rose, do we have enough food? I hid the blood-stained club behind me and pulled out a long smile. We do, Grandma. Good. That's good, Grandma spoke as she closed the door. On the floor, there were 8 in total, moaning, screaming, and some who had fainted. They were the gang that had been wreaking havoc in the building recently. I didn't take their lives, I just crippled their legs. Then, one by one, I rolled them down the stairs so they could never climb up to the 29th floor again. As for Michael, I took the opportunity to cut off his tongue. Would I have had all these troubles if he hadn't been such a blabbermouth? By the time I finished cleaning up the blood in the hallway, dawn was breaking. Outside, there was no sign of the rain stopping. After that night, I felt as if a seal had been lifted. I was afraid of nothing. I even wished the police would come and arrest me, as that would at least mean the rain had stopped and everything was back to normal. But now, it was like the apocalypse. Later, I went to check on the 15th floor, just as I thought. Michael hadn't starved to death because he had broken into the supermarket owner's house with a few others. Despite having plenty of food, he still came after my life. Now, the place was occupied by refugees. When I went there, they were frantically devouring the food inside. Seeing me, they acted like dogs guarding their food, completely losing their human appearance. Michael didn't dare to climb back to the 15th floor. Those people would have devoured him, starving and losing too much blood. He died in the corridor within a few days. In the following month, the building was significantly quieter. One reason was that Michael's gang was dead, another was that there weren't many people left alive. But sometimes, the evil you can see is the most terrifying. I wonder how many demons are still lurking in this apartment building. By the 3rd month, the floodwaters had risen above the 15th floor. Strangely, it was already October, but the temperature hadn't dropped. It felt just like it did in July when the rain first started. Though the temperature hadn't changed, there wasn't much left in the vegetable garden. Even with a rain shelter, the persistent humidity was too much. The soil never dried out, and the vegetables were always rotting. Now, my worry wasn't about food, it was about what to do when the water reached the 29th floor. Would the commander and I really have to escape in a kayak? That night, when the patio door was opened, I instantly woke up from my sleep. Ever since the power went out, I had been sleeping by the main door, always alert to any noise outside, but I had ignored the patio. The rain was so loud that even the commander hadn't heard the noise outside. But how could anyone get up here to the top floor? In the faint moonlight, I saw 2 shadows enter. The commander had already dashed over, and fearing he might get hurt, I shouted loudly, "Come back!" almost simultaneously. I pulled a kitchen knife from under the pillow and found a lighter, lighting a candle on the cabinet overhead in one smooth motion. The 2 intruders were prepared. The first one suddenly turned on a flashlight towards me. Blinded by the strong beam, I couldn't see anything. Luckily, the commander reacted quickly, pouncing from the side and knocking down the one with the flashlight. I rolled to the side, precisely finding another candle to light. Once I could see the intruders clearly. I aimed at one's shoulder and chopped down with the knife. Blood gushed out as he clutched his arm, convulsing and collapsing, while another man was still entangled with the commander on the ground. But looking at the commander, it didn't seem like he was biting. Could it be that he recognized this person? "Commander, come back." He wagged his tail and came over to me. I grabbed the man on the ground and shone my flashlight on his face. Brother Wang, this man was a fellow dog walker, usually. When I walked the commander around the neighborhood, I would bump into him walking a Samoyed. Over time, we had gotten to know each other. I quickly searched him and found 2 fruit knives. Finally, I pressed a kitchen knife against his neck, my tone icy. "What are you doing here? How did you get in?" His eyes darted around, afraid to meet my gaze. I forced him up to the balcony and saw 2 hooks tied with thick hemp rope hanging on the railing, with the other end tied to my grandmother's balcony. After a brief pause, I pressed the knife harder against his neck. Where's Grandma? Blood started to seep from his neck, compelling him to spill everything. He even begged me not to kill him. I withdrew the knife and pointed at the rope swaying in the rain. Go on, climb back. He was desperate to return the same way. Just as he was halfway there, I suddenly spoke. Where's your dog Pippi? He lost his balance and turned back in panic. Amid his gaze filled with guilt and despair, I glanced at the commander and then pointed at the hooks on the railing. The commander understood my gesture and flipped one with his mouth. His screams faded as I watched him disappear into the water. Go join your dog. Back in the house, everyone was gone. Only a pool of blood remained. I couldn't concern myself with that. I rushed to my grandmother's door, but no matter how much I knocked or called, there was no response. Grandma was dead. All my strength crumbled at that moment, and I sat at her door, sobbing. I hadn't cried once since the rain started, but now, I suddenly didn't see the point in living. The rain wouldn't stop, and the building was about to be submerged. With no relatives left in this world, what was I still holding on for? Suddenly, something warm rubbed against my arm. I looked up. And it was the commander. The two of us just sat there, leaning against Grandma's door until dawn. When I first adopted the commander, he was only 5 months old. He had been abandoned after his vocal cords were cut, so my commander couldn't bark, he couldn't make a sound. He was already so pitiful, I couldn't let him lose me too. Just like that, we made it through another 2 months. Now the apartment building was eerily quiet, terrifyingly so. It seemed like we were the only two left. Like we were the only two left in the whole world. Just when I thought there were no other survivors in this building besides me, noise came from outside the door. Is it this apartment? The one with the dog? Yeah, she also grows vegetables. A girl living alone. They sounded desperate with hunger. I turned to look at the dog pressed against me and once again picked up the kitchen knife, peering through the peephole. There were just two of them, talking so brazenly at my doorstep in broad daylight. Who did they think they were underestimating? I opened the door, holding a kitchen knife in one hand and leading the dog with the other. I asked, is there something you need? The two men outside were about to pick the lock, clearly startled by my actions. It wasn't until their expressions shifted from surprise to murderous intent that I felt reassured enough to strike. This way, I felt no guilt. These two knew I had a dog and they came prepared. But it was useless, in the end. It was still me and the dog that survived. The building was indeed empty. They must have drifted over from somewhere else. After all, as the water level rises, there are fewer obstacles. At that thought, I suddenly saw a glimmer of hope. I quickly ran out. Sure enough, at last, outside the window of room 2605, I found a small wooden boat. They had come over in this. I was overjoyed. Wasn't this more useful than my kayak? On the boat, there was a telescope, a compass, and some remaining food. I guess they had spotted my home using the telescope from some high-rise building. Calling the dog, we spent the afternoon and managed to get the boat inside before nightfall. Exhausted, I sat on the ground gasping for breath and patted the dog. Extra food tonight. 12. There are about 15 days left until the 29th floor is submerged. In the days that followed, I prepared to survive. The boat had a limited capacity. It was impossible to take all the remaining food with us, so the dog and I ate as much as we could each day to build our strength. I also used raincoats, umbrellas, and everything else I could find at home to build a makeshift shelter over the boat. It was ugly, but practical. The 15 days passed in a blink. The night before we set off, I boiled several pots of water and took a thorough bath. Then, with a snip, I cut my waist-length hair short. Looking at the stranger in the mirror felt odd, but her will to survive was as strong as mine. At 3 a.m., we set off. I tied a kayak with a rope to the back of the boat. Although it made rowing harder, I wanted to bring as much water and food as possible. I was relieved that over the past few days, I had taught the dog to row with a paddle in its mouth. It was really smart. The moment we boarded the boat, I didn't know if we would survive, but I knew staying was certain death. If the 29th floor flooded, I would look for a higher building. If all buildings were flooded, then I would look for a mountain. I rowed the boat westward, because I knew the terrain was higher there, and there were mountains along the way. If we found a higher building, the dog and I would stay there comfortably for a few days. If not, we would tie the boat to whatever we could and endure the long nights. Although the hands of my watch were still turning, I gradually lost all sense of time. I don't know how many days passed. As far as the eye could see, there were no longer any buildings. The dog and I were like a small boat in a vast sea. After so long, I still hadn't found the mountains. I clearly remembered there were mountains to the west. The kayak towed behind was already empty, and in our little boat, only a box of compressed biscuits, half a bag of dog food, and a bucket of water remained. Commander, I'm sorry. Although it was too weak from hunger, it still managed to nuzzle my face when it heard me speak. I really tried my best, at that moment, in the despairing darkness. A light appeared. It was a boat. My brain surged with blood, sweeping away the fatigue. I stood up, frantically shaking my hand-cranked flashlight, screaming towards the light until my throat was hoarse. Later I found out, from the time I left the apartment building to when I encountered the rescue team, a total of 54 days had passed. Everyone thought it was incredible. I had managed to drift on the water for nearly 2 months with a dog. When I reached the survivor base on the mountain top, tears streamed down my face. People, oh. It had been so long since I had seen so many people, even though the rain hadn't stopped, despite the possibility that one day this place might be submerged. For now, I am alive, so is the commander, both of us are alive. They say I'm truly fortunate. Am I fortunate? I just happened to have an abusive father, which forced me to master self-defense skills. I just happened to be alone in this world, possessing a heightened sense of vigilance compared to the average person. I just happened to be extremely insecure, prompting me to stockpile a vast amount of supplies in preparation for the worst. I just happened to have a dog, which is why I have a rooftop house where I can grow vegetables. I am well aware that it was the hardships I faced that saved me. It was the commander who saved me. It was certainly not luck. Even if one day the rain floods this place, I firmly believe I can still survive with the commander. We must survive.